Why, hello there. Good morning and welcome to another broadcast of Golden VCR. Wow. Such hype. Boy howdy, 5-month resub from Super Yoshi in a year from Tashi B. Thanks, y'all. Thank you. This shirt has epaulets, which kind of conflict with the suspenders, but it's a nice shirt. Haley got it for me. Today we have a couple of tapes, and then it's going to be Christmas time. The search for Canada's most secret animal. We've previously searched for Australia's most secret animal. I am wearing the cop shirt, yeah. It is a little baggy on me, so I don't know if I should keep it in my wardrobe, but it's a really good shirt. It has a tag on it that says, well, sure, but the shirt isn't a bastard. It has, well, this shirt has a tag that says Union Made in USA. Show me a shirt that's domestically manufactured by union labor in the year of our Lord 2024. Anyway, we got Canada Animal for Kids fun, and then and then Surviving Columbus, the story of the Pueblo people, and then it'll be Christmas time. So let's have fun with animals. I have some great Christmas tapes picked out, including the Greystone Baptist Church of Durham, North Carolina, with their living Christmas tree from the year 2000. We watched their Christmas pageant a year ago, and everyone hated it. Anyway, it's Canada's most secret animal right now on Golden VCR. Canada's most secret animal. Could it be the wolf? The seal? The polar bear? The search for Canada's most secret animal is a child's video safari through this continent's animal kingdom. This exciting natural life video provides a unique and innovative approach to learning about animals. Child narrators, using a Guess the Secret Animal format, will introduce you to the varied and exotic animals of the region. You'll see them live and in full color in their natural habitat. And which is the secret animal? Your hosts will introduce one animal after another as they examine each animal's unique attributes as they inform you of the nature and the habits of the secret animal's character. At the end, the path of your video safari will reveal the identity. Cool. The animals come to life in this exciting and educational documentary. Here we go. Yeah, we had most secret. We had Australia's most secret animal before in broadcast 29 way back when. But now, it's time to venture to our favorite country on earth, Canada.
Hi kids, how would you like this poster
Free
from
poster.
Children's Video Encyclopedia for your very own? To find out how to get this awesome poster, stick around. I'll give you more information at the end of the program.
Hey kid,
So get a pencil and paper ready.
you want a cool
Maybe
poster?
you want to ask your mom or dad to help you out. See you then.
Westridge Films and Télé-Images. It'll probably settle down. Look at that big old chunker frog. Come on, signal.
I know Canada's most secret animal. Can you guess what it is?
I'm sure I can.
I'm a Canadian child from Canada.
The first clue is that the secret
I
animal
love living in Alberta.
appearance.
The walrus has a very peculiar appearance. It lives in the north of Canada and spends most of its time on ice packs.
Oh, adjusting the tracking seemed to help. Maybe. This is one of
Walruses
those.
have sensitive whiskers on their faces, which help them find food on the sea bottom.
Sometimes
They
having the
eat
on-screen
mussels,
display
crabs, and
up
fish.
makes the tracking better. I don't know why.
Although they're awkward on land, they are very graceful swimmers.
Anyway, enjoy. Can you guess what Canada's most secret animal is going to be?
The walrus does have a peculiar appearance, but it's not the secret animal.
I'm guessing it's not the
I know
walrus.
another
Yep.
unusual sea animal. What about the killer whale? It's the largest of the dolphin family and is one of the fiercest predators in the sea. Killer whales are not fish. They're mammals like us. They're warm-blooded, they produce milk for their young, and they come up to the surface to breathe in air. They're also clever acrobats. They can stand up in the water and look around.
Although they are unlikely to hurt people unless they're provoked, killer whales will eat almost anything, including walruses, sharks, and squid.
Killer whales hunt in packs of up to 20, called pods. All the killer whales in a pod are related. They are very intelligent and talk to each other in their own language. Though we can't hear all of their sounds because some of them are outside the range of human hearing.
Baby killer whales stay with their mothers for about 2 years. I'll give you another clue. Like the killer whale, the secret animal carefully looks after its young.
Owls hunt food for their young. There are more than 100 different types of owl found all over the world. The snowy owl is the only one to live in the Arctic. Most owls are nocturnal, hunting at night, but the snowy owl hunts during the day. It has a huge wingspan, and like other owls, can fly without making any noise, so its prey won't hear it coming. The snowy owl's white coat helps camouflage it in the snow.
Like the snowy owl, the secret animal makes an unusual sound.
Maybe it's a water bird. Some of them make unusual sounds. Canada geese make unusual sounds. In fact, they have a complicated vocabulary. The Canada goose belongs to a large family known as sea geese. They're different from other geese because they don't fly in any group formation. Like all birds which migrate when the seasons change, Canada geese have a good sense of direction. This helps them find their way over long distances.
Canada geese are very common and have been introduced to many different parts of the world. But you won't find the secret animal all over the world. Here's another clue. The secret animal has a special smell that helps it to recognise others.
If the secret animal has a smell that helps it to recognise others, it might be the white-tailed deer. White-tailed deer have a musky smell that comes from glands on their back legs. Baby white-tailed deer recognise their mothers by this smell. White-tailed deer also look after their young. The mothers hide their fawns in the forest until they are old enough to run.
White-tailed deer have a way of warning each other of danger. Whenever they're scared, they snort and stamp their feet. Then they flick up their white tails. White-tailed deer usually run away from danger. They can run very fast, up to 60 kilometres an hour.
Black-tailed deer can also recognise their mothers by smell. Black-tailed deer eat grasses, shrubs, mushrooms, nuts and moss. The male deer sometimes have vicious fights, knocking their antlers together and forcing their opponent's head to the ground.
That's to show who's boss. But sometimes their antlers become locked together. Then neither of them can eat, and they both die of starvation.
Black-tailed deer, like the white-tailed deer, run away from danger.
The secret animal doesn't run away from danger. It has a very different way of defending itself.
The fisher defends itself by hunching its back, spitting and growling. Fishers belong to the weasel family and live in forests. They are good at climbing and swimming. Fishers eat porcupines, which they flip onto their backs so that they can bite into their unprotected bellies.
Female fishes are pregnant for a very long time, nearly a year.
Fishers have a thick coat with long and woolly fur underneath. This helps keep them warm.
The secret animal's coat keeps it warm too, and helps it to survive in its cold home. That's your next clue.
Sea otters have a thick coat of fur to keep them warm. Sea otters live in the cold waters of the Arctic Ocean and along the west coast of Canada. Sea otters have a clever way of defending themselves. When they're frightened, they hide in kelp, a type of seaweed.
They sleep in beds of kelp too, to stop them drifting away with the current.
Do you know what sea otters have in common with people?
No? What?
Like people, sea otters can use tools.
How do they do that?
They float on their backs and put stones on their chests. Then they break open seashells on the stones. That's how they get to the food inside. Sea otters nearly became extinct earlier this century because they were hunted for their thick coats. But now they're protected under an international treaty. I know lots of other Canadian animals that have a thick coat to help them survive in the cold. Maybe one of them is a secret animal. If the secret animal needs a thick coat to survive, it might be the Canadian lynx. They also have large furry feet that keep them warm when they're stalking prey on the snow. Although they're usually quiet, lynx sometimes make a sound like a scream. Lynx have large ears and very good hearing.
The secret animal has very good hearing too.
Is the lynx a secret animal?
When do they hunt?
At night.
The secret animal sleeps at night. You'll have to keep on searching.
Harbour seals sleep at night, and they have a coat of thick hair. Harbour seals also have a layer of fat called blubber, which helps to keep them warm in their cold home. Harbour seals live on ice floes, on sandy beaches, and sometimes they're even found in fresh water.
Harbour seal is also called the common seal. It's now an endangered animal after years of being hunted. But it's not the secret animal.
What about the timber wolf? It has a thick coat to keep it warm in the cold Canadian forests. Timber wolves live in packs of up to 15. They are very cunning animals and often use tricks of surprise or ambush when they're hunting. Timber wolves are fast runners, but sometimes they can be outrun by a deer. Timber wolves send messages by howling. If a wolf is separated from the pack, he or she will howl so that the others know where it is.
Do they make any other noises?
They also bark and growl, like dogs.
Don't forget, The secret animal makes a very unusual sound.
What else can you tell me?
Well, if the secret animal has a thick coat to survive, where do you think it would live?
Probably in the north of Canada, where it gets very, very cold. Dall sheep are found in the north of Canada, and they grow a long coat for the cold winter months. Dall sheep also use smell to recognise each other. During the breeding season, the rams fight with each other. The sound of their horns clashing can be heard over a kilometre away.
The secret animal does live in the north of Canada, but it's not a sheep.
There are some very unusual birds that live in the north of Canada. Maybe one of them is a secret animal. If the secret animal is a bird, it might be the puffin. Puffins live in the north of Canada, high up into the Arctic Circle. Puffins are excellent swimmers and catch their food underwater. They move quickly through the water, flapping their wings as if they're flying. They can stay underwater for several minutes. Puffins don't build nests like most other birds. They breed on rocky outcrops and in burrows along the coast. Both male and female puffins care for their young. While one minds the chicks, the other goes off to find food from the ocean. Is the puffin the secret animal?
The puffin is a very good guess, but it's not the secret animal. I think I should tell you, the secret animal isn't a bird, it's a mammal.
The Arctic fox is a mammal, and it also lives in the north. The Arctic fox has adapted well to its cold climate. It has tiny furred ears, which help stop it losing too much warmth from its body.
The Arctic fox's coat changes colour in different seasons. It can sense the length of the days, and the colour of its coat changes along with the hours of daylight. In summer, the Arctic fox is brown and white. As the weather grows colder, it changes to a grey colour. Then, in the depths of winter, it becomes snowy white.
The Arctic wolf is another mammal that lives in the cold north. There are many different types of wolves found in Canada, and the Arctic wolf is the smallest. Arctic wolves sometimes travel over frozen ice packs and can hunt animals much larger than themselves.
When they're in a pack, Arctic wolves can be very aggressive, more so than any other animals in the north. The secret animal isn't aggressive.
All right then. Give me a new clue.
The secret animal is often bothered by insects during summer, but it has a special way of dealing with them.
When caribou are bothered by mosquitoes and other insects, they'll form a circle or lie in sheltered snowbanks to get away from them. Caribou live in large herds, sometimes as large as 10,000. Caribou have a good sense of smell, which they use to find food and detect danger. Caribou eat grass, plants and fruit.
The secret animal also eats grass, plants and fruit.
Is the caribou the secret animal?
No, but can you think of any other Canadian animals that are bothered by insects?
I know a very large animal that has a clever way of fighting off insects. If the secret animal is bothered by insects, it might be the moose. When flies and mosquitoes annoy the moose, it submerges itself in water or mud to avoid them. The moose is the largest deer in the world. The male can reach over 2 metres in height and can weigh close to a ton. In the mating season, the male moose, or bull, will make a loud bellowing sound. If he hears a female call back, he'll crash through the forest to reach her.
Mothers are very protective of their young. When new calves are born, the mother will drive other animals, such as deer, out of her territory. She will even chase her older calves away, leaving them to survive in the forest alone. If a bull moose is aggressive to her calf, she will leave, taking her calf with her.
Although it's a timid animal, the moose can be unpredictable and dangerous. They avoid contact with people.
The moose has been hunted by man. The secret animal has also been hunted. That's another clue.
The wapiti was hunted for its teeth, which were used as jewellery. The wapiti is the second largest deer in the world. The name wapiti is Indian for white rump.
They are alert and use all their senses to detect danger.
The wapiti's antlers are very heavy, and if one falls off, the wapiti becomes unbalanced and his head tilts to one side. Wapitis make a distinctive bugling sound when they want to challenge others during the mating season. Wapiti live in small groups of up to 25.
We're getting closer, but don't forget, the secret animal lives farther north. Wapitis live in the open prairies and in meadows across central Canada.
The polar bear was hunted for its coat, and it lives in the far north, on the edge of the Arctic ice pack. During the colder stages of winter, they hibernate in hollowed-out dens. Polar bears walk long distances every day in search of food. Their large size helps to maintain their body temperature, and they have thick furred feet to protect them from the cold.
Polar bears have a thick layer of fat to keep them warm. They also have water-repellent coats and partly webbed feet. They can tread water and swim for hours. Polar bears are carnivorous animals, mostly eating seals and fish.
eyesight and will often stand on their hind legs and stretch their necks for a better view. They also have an amazing sense of smell and can detect a dead seal up to 20 kilometres away.
But the polar bear spends most of its time alone. The secret animal lives in herds.
It lives in herds high up in the north. It's been hunted. I don't know. I think you'll have to tell me.
What about this animal? It lives in the Arctic Circle. It moves in herds, and it has a very peculiar appearance. It was hunted by the Eskimos for its horns, which were used as bows.
What is it?
It's the muskox.
So this is the secret animal.
Yes, the muskox has a long, shaggy coat, which helps it to survive in the cold. Its coat also keeps insects from bothering it. The muskox is usually a peaceful animal. Muskox have one of the most unusual ways of defending themselves in the animal world. If they sense danger, such as a pack of wolves, the herd will form a protective line or ring. They also protect their young this way, standing their ground between their calves and the intruder. They are very tough animals. Their calves are born in temperatures far below zero. The muskox has a strong musky smell during the breeding season, and that's how they're recognised by others. Although they're Canada's largest animal, muskox can run quite fast, and they make a peculiar sound.
What's that?
A deep, throaty rumble. They have good hearing and eyesight, but can only see shapes in silhouette. The muskox has been on Earth since the Ice Age. It's Canada's most secret animal.
Wow. Who thought it was gonna be the muskox? Well, now we know. Gross. Wow. Well, now we know. Now we know what Canada's most secret animal is. So if... I feel like I can pass the Canadian naturalization test now and become a citizen. Because when they ask me, hey, what's our most secret animal? Sorry. I'll tell them muskox, and then they'll let me into the country. Bella, ask me something that only a Canadian should know.
Hi.
Oh my God, it's
I'm
the
back.
poster.
If you have your pencil and paper ready, I'll show you how to get your free poster.
The first prime minister was Jean Chrétien. No. Lord Dukington Wellingforth Fucklehouse III. We're still waiting on the poster details. No? No? What? They just... Well, no, it said get your pen ready, and I'm going to teach you about how to get the secret poster. Oh, okay. That was bad. I was also distracted by Canada facts. But I really do feel like I failed. If you want to get into Canada, you have to tell them the secret animal. You have to answer their riddles 3. You have to present the secret animal poster. You have to tell them what the secret animal is, and then you have to tell them the first prime minister, which is Queen Victoria. All right, so that was a fun way to start things off. Let's move on to another tape. This is Surviving Columbus, the story of the Pueblo people. It's a PBS documentary. Those tend to be very good. And I like that it's a thing from 1992 that, you know, presents an account of you know, Columbus's journey into the New World that perhaps is cognizant of the fact that he was a violent, bad person. Oh my God. All the action in the cockpit is as close as your VCR. From Pacific Arts, the F-18 Eagle. Flight, the Great Plains of Military Aviation, only $14.95. Oh, there's so much cool shit in here. Oh my God. Reach for the stars and relive the dream. Whoops. Ah. These are all the PBS tapes you can order in 1989. Space Flight, Thunder in the Skies. A salute. Austin City Limits presents A Salute to the Cowboy. Finally, the truth. Oh, this is what this... We have 2 of these tapes from this series. Finally, the truth about America's first frontier settlers, the American Indian Collection. We also have The Spirit of Crazy Horse. PBS Home Video sorts through a century of lies and myths to bring you the truth about the Sioux, the Navajo, and the Apache, their culture, their heritage, and their struggle. Explore the mysteries of the ancient mound builders, travel with Geronimo, hunted by 5,000 Army troops, witness the efforts of Native Americans to survive in today's society. 5 video cassettes. Did we? There was another PBS documentary that we watched at one point about, it examined a few different cultures, like it profiled a few different families on reservations and talked about, you know, the issues of growing up with Native American tribal identity in the 80s or 90s. And that was very good, but it looks like that was from a different series. Unleash the power of a child's imagination. The Reading Rainbow Treasury. Special. Enjoy the excitement of skateboards, rollerblades, scooters, and bikes, then face the challenge of driving a New York City taxicab in this sampler from the Reading Rainbow set. Dr. Ian Dunbar's Serious, spelled like the constellation Puppy Training. Oh, shit, man. I wonder if this order form still works. Probably not. It has been a couple of decades. There's also, in the music section, sorry, I'm just enjoying these promos for a minute. The music that Lifetime Memories are made of, Crosby, Stills, and Nash acoustic. There's also state-of-the-art computer animation. Only $9.95. I wish I could pull focus on this webcam. That would be nice. If there is a frontier to the visual arts, it's computer animation. And this colorful video delivers the most dramatic examples of synthetic imagery ever created. Here is the finest work being done in this form in works that range from exotic flights of fancy to the ultra-realism of simulators to breakthrough commercials from Pacific Arts. Yeah, I don't... It seems familiar, but I don't know what that is. Focus on my fingernail. Nope. Alright. Well... That's really neat. And then there's also how to help your child learn the facts about sex. And now it focuses. Yeah, there you go. Fish boat. Oh my God, there's... Sorry. I do sometimes love, like, the ephemera that comes with tapes. There's a warranty card for your videotape. Limited warranty. We guarantee this video to be free of defects for a period of 1 year, or the program will be replaced at no charge if returned postage paid to Home Video Warranty, Los Angeles, California. Check the amount that is closest to the price you paid. How many videos have you... Wow, that's great. Okay. Without further ado... Well, actually with some more ado, because I want to read this. This is a historical documentary, so I think reading the back will help us frame the perspective that we're approaching this from. Surviving Columbus, the story of the Pueblo people. The Americas were not vacant when Christopher Columbus arrived. They were home to many indigenous civilizations. Though the explorer never set foot in the American Southwest, his voyage brought adventurers and conquerors, and he became a symbol of profound changes imposed upon the region's native people. In the 500 years since Columbus, the history of the American Southwest has been told from the conqueror's point of view. Until now. Surviving Columbus tells the other side of history, the story of the European conquest as viewed by America's Pueblo people, told in their voices and seen through their eyes. Captured in beautiful images, dramatic words, and music, it is a story long overdue. Surviving Columbus reveals the rich legacy of the Pueblo people and their 450-year struggle to preserve their culture. We visit the stunning proof of the ancient Pueblo civilization in Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde, where culture flourished while Europe suffered through its dark ages. Surviving Columbus is a journey through time as well, through the eras of conquistadors, Spanish settlers, and Franciscan missionaries. The film carries us through the spectacular victory of native people in the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, when they defied Hispanic efforts to eradicate their religion. And finally, it carries us to modern times in which the Pueblo people continue to resist United States government control over their land and way of life. It is a life described with candor by tribal elders, artists, miners, students, and teachers. Directed by a woman of Pueblo heritage, Surviving Columbus presents a Native American's perspective that has never been seen before. Theirs is an inspiring story of existence, not just during the 500 years since Columbus, but since the beginning of time. This was produced by KNME TV, the public TV station of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So, thank you for sitting through all that preamble. I hope we enjoy Surviving Columbus and find something to learn from it. I sure hope the tape works. After all that. If not, well, I think we're out of the 1-year warranty period. This is from 22 years ago. Not for use in the classroom. Wow. Rude.
The following presentation is from PBS Home Video.
Ding.
Innovative programs, challenging concepts, and quality family entertainment. This is the world of PBS Home Video.
Yeah, 91 or 92 is the copyright date on this.
New critically acclaimed programs are now available at prices that make it affordable to add PBS Home Video to your permanent collection. Through it all, you'll discover quality programs that your family will enjoy for years to come. PBS Home Video, bringing the world alive with award-winning programs guaranteed to change the way you look at home entertainment.
This is going to make me very wistful for an era when public
to order videotapes
broadcasting was
using your Visa or MasterCard
actually
or to receive
funded.
a free PBS Home Video catalog, call 1-800-538-5856.
Anyway, here we go. Surviving Columbus. Please enjoy.
The celebration of 500 years of European contact, which is basically the commemoration of Columbus. It is an opportunity for Indian people to tell their story, something that has to be, I think, very important for Pueblo people, because there are always two sides to a story, and that there's not just one way of looking at history, but many ways.
Funding for this program has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you. Additional funding has been provided by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Native American Public Broadcasting Consortium.
I make my living telling stories about human life, human tragedy, human drama. Living in a place like Los Angeles is so different from the place where I grew up, that place that I call home, where my people are, my family, my clan. And that's probably the reason why I return home as much as I can. Born and raised in this house coming up over here, so close to the tracks, and I remember as a kid standing outside my mother's house and watching the trains go by, the sleek red and silver trains. It's the village where I grew up. Played among these hills, played with most of the children here, and brings back a lot of memories. I remember going to school and being taught that Columbus discovered America, a land populated by brutal savages who had to be conquered, converted, and civilized. In the official version of history, it always seemed better to be white than to be Indian. But at night when I came home to my family, my grandparents, especially my great-grandfather, would tell us stories and legends, myths about our past, about our history, that began long before Christopher Columbus set sail, before Spain was a nation, and even before Christ was born. This, then, is our story, my story, a living story, a story of how Pueblo people have survived.
The rock was very soft. You find footprints. Where they used to stand to watch the sun over here. I don't know if it's still there. There's footprints there, moccasin prints. Where I spring down here.
Always tell a story from the beginning. That's what Pueblo elders used to tell us. Telling a story is re-knowing the experience. This is the way all things have always been.
As a little girl, I stayed with my grandparents, and they would, she would tell me, long ago tales, and she told me that one day 2 spider sisters came out of a hole on the ground. And they saw all the beauty that surrounds Acoma. The mesas, beautiful mesas, the pinon trees, cedar trees, all around was beautiful. So they went back in and told the Huchan, that's the chief of the tribe. And they told him, it's so pretty up there, why don't we move, up there? Everything is so beautiful. So the Huchan got the Kokopelli, the humpback flute player, to lead the people out from the underworld into the world we live in now.
When people found a place they wanted to settle, they, of course, could not do it just by themselves. They always had to talk to other animals. They had to talk to the rainbow. They had to talk to the water spider and say, how does this feel to you? Does this feel like we've arrived at some place where the energies are swirling? And is this a place that we can give ourselves to?
After their emergence from that world beneath, that place called Shabab, our ancestors set off to find the center of this world, the middle place of a spiritual landscape. It's here that they created one of the most highly evolved civilizations ever known. Cities like Chaco Canyon, Mesa Verde, Aztec, and Canyon de Chelly stand in testimony to a complex, highly sophisticated culture.
Pueblo culture was in formation about the time of Christ. And of course, it all picked up steam in the centuries between 900 and about 1350 AD, when the largest towns were occupied and the most architecturally complex cities were built, and the Pueblo culture extended at its zenith from Las Vegas, New Mexico to Las Vegas, Nevada on an east to west range, and from Durango, Colorado to Durango, Mexico, north to south. It was a very vast range.
There's a story in Acoma history that talks about a place like Chaco Canyon, a place called Kashkacht, a place where Acoma people migrated from. I remember my grandparents going to Chaco Canyon and taking prayer bundles with them. And late at night, as they were praying, my grandmother later told me she thought she heard somebody singing. It not only frightened her, but maybe even at the same time delighted her to know that there was still this connection between what had been and what is now.
What we're told as children is that people, when they walk on the land, leave their sweat and they leave their breath wherever they go. So that wherever we walk, the place, that particular spot on the earth never forgets us. And when we go back to those places, we know that the people who have lived there are in some way still there, and that we can actually partake of their breath and of their spirit. And that's another incredible source of power.
Pueblo life is always close to the earth. The traditional homes of stone and adobe, the red, yellow, and white mesa cliffs and sandstone canyons into which they blend. This closeness is in the agrarian way of life. The link is there between our land and people, our homes, our art, and our religion. It is in the colors of our skin and hair and our clothing and food, just as it is in the natural earth and sky all around.
What makes Pueblo culture so unique is its special relationship to the land. The mountains, the deserts, and the rivers are not resources to be exploited, but are a sacred landscape. We don't own the land, we belong to it.
The land is part of a ceremonial universe in literally the shrine systems that exist in the center of the community and around the community and at mountaintops as far as you can see. And it defines who you are and where you are now. But I think very much it defines the origin as well as the destination, the destiny of a person.
You can look back to the old Mimbres pottery and you see depictions of people. You can look at petroglyphs and rock art and you see that occurrences in people's lives were being recorded. And there is that presence there that really indicates that people are aware of where they came from and who they are. And they were leaving images for other people to see.
Each family has their, own designs, their mothers, their grandmas, that this is the way they painted. And so it's just passed down, it's just, we just keep on doing it. When my mother was real sick, I told her that my daughter had called from Phoenix. And I told her, I said, she did a pottery with a parrot design. That is one of our oldest designs. And I hugged my mother and I told her, oh, Mother, you're going to live forever through your designs. I said, well, people will always see the beauty that you have left with us all. All this you have left. I said, don't be so sad. I said, because we will carry on this.
Some of our ancestors moved closer to the Rio Grande so that their villages of stone and adobe were strung along the river and its tributaries like beads upon a string of water. In the West, other groups concentrated around desert water sources in Acoma, in Zuni, and Hopi.
The movement through the land by the people is very significant and is part of all Pueblo myths. It's part of that emulation of movement that was seen in the natural environment. One that is always talked about in songs, prayers, is the movement of the clouds, how the rain comes from the Father source and fertilizes the Mother Earth. And then out of that, everything grows.
Pueblo life before the Europeans arrived consisted of farming and supplementing their farming by hunting. Buffalo, antelope, deer. And because this is a semi-arid country, low rainfall, they spent much of their time fasting or praying for good weather, and other times they spent dancing to ask for more animals during the winter months, they have buffalo dance, deer dance, so that they hope that more will be available when hunting season comes around.
Ipetana sus kuwa kuwa hama yuna kachti saya ha kaifanish eso et kuwa kashturat yu himotsi naskun jutsi et ha wetse kui ha emehe eso kuwa hima ashtu ku temsi na namitsi kait
Awe kastura amha kitsiwe.
Conquisted coronado emehe
On the eve of the first contact with European culture, the Pueblo people comprised a peaceful, highly successful civilization made up of over 100 pueblos of 50,000 people speaking 8 sovereign languages. It was a multitude of differing customs, but one common culture.
We saw it in our dreams, in our dark nighttime knowings, that a white man would come from the south. We did not understand what the nighttime knew, that these men would take our corn, our cornmeal, our bodies, use them, throw them against the ground with disdain for both us and the ground, for our place, for our lives. It was a bad wind against which we tightened our blankets, closed our eyes, and waited for the wind to pass. The wind passed, but we were left with the men in metal, with diseases which rotted our bodies, with dying children. Our nighttime voices warned of more to come.
One afternoon in May of 1539, in the Zuni Pueblo of Hawiku, the Pueblo world was changed forever because of a Spanish myth, a dream of 7 cities of gold. Less than 50 years after the voyage of Columbus, this dream of golden cities waiting to be plundered drove men thousands of miles across seas of sand and stark mountains. Ironically, the first white man to contact Pueblo people was Estebanico, a black slave from Azamor, Morocco. Estebanico was the guide for Fray Marcos de Niza's expedition to find the 7 cities of gold.
He was the first black man who was representing the Spaniards and who told the Zunis when he arrived that he was representing white men they were following that were more powerful than he was, and that they had to obey things that he was asking for. And I'm sure he was asking for food, for shelter, for gifts, and probably women also. And in the meantime, had been hearing rumors of slave raids up into the northern part of Sonora, where there was many slave raids, where whole villages were killed off by the slave raiders, taking all the men, women, and children, and killing all the older men and women, and leaving, taking them into slavery. And so they were afraid that he was one of the slave spies.
Estebanico and the rumors of slave raids have long since entered Zuni legend. Over the centuries, the actual events have receded until only faint echoes remain in the stories of giants and magic rattles. But then Pueblo history is history through storytelling, history through legend.
Siwa kai na niskon tuolla naavan ho intana tunnekki. Lähtät sillä kvansipin kääntä on aivan ahjuutat aivan tunnekki. Iskon niisäknök taas jätokki jam aju ja no näkke. Ja musta ahjuutat jän inasnäkä oppuna kai. Kainag ana. Sisitua fraatiutet.
Esteban learned a few tricks in his of the trade of being medicine man, so he sent this gourd that he had that was supposed to be his medicine gourd, which had 2 feathers, one white one and one red one, and a couple of copper bells. And at that point, the Zuni chiefs, the war chiefs, flung the gourd to the ground and said, "This is not from our people. This is not. This person must be a spy."
Iskon ton hailausunut. Ton annikena jakta. Kleniina jäät. Tiimi ton on ajanti oikein. Lekkan. Jamsi ako se jakna. San tiimon jakta. Hoi sana hoi jutullakaan. Saatsi tuusana tuotika. Sipua nyt koli nipyynä.
The Zuni treated Estebanico like any other spy. They confined him in a house outside the Pueblo walls. But one morning in May 1539, Estebanico tried to flee and was killed. When Fray Marcos de Niza heard about Estebanico's death, he turned around and sped back to Mexico without seeing the country he called Cibola. His lack of first-hand knowledge did not prevent him, though, from inventing the tale of the 7 golden cities of Cibola.
Cibola has the appearance of a very beautiful town. The city is bigger than the city of Mexico, and it is the least of the 7 cities. There is much gold, and the natives trade in vessels and jewels.
Fray Marcos's lies and exaggerations soon ignited Spanish greed for gold. 1 year later, in 1540, an expedition led by Francisco Vázquez de Coronado came to Zuni to find the treasure of the 7 cities of Cibola. Coronado brought with him 300 Spanish soldiers, 1,000 Mexican Indians, guns, cannons, crossbows, and warhounds.
Banners were waving, armor was shining. Coronado was arriving right at a most important religious period of time. They were arriving at the summer solstice for the pilgrimage. When the pilgrims are out on their journey, going to and coming from the sacred lake, nobody must cross their path, because that cuts off the rain wishes of the people that are performing the ceremonies. As they approached, the high priest and the various bow priests forming the front line spread a line of cornmeal, which is a symbol for do not enter now. Do not enter now, because we don't want you to interrupt our ceremony.
And of course, they did just that. They violated the Zuni ritual taboo. And that was a terrible thing to do, and violence was inevitable after that.
Against the peaceful Zuni, European military techniques and weapons resulted in a quick victory. The Spanish, however, were bitterly disappointed. There was no gold, no precious jewels.
When the Spaniards first saw the village, which was Cibola, such were the curses that they hurled at Fray Marcos, that I pray God may protect him from them. it is a crowded little village, looking as if it had been all crumpled together.
After hearing about the arrival of the Spanish, the people of Pecos Pueblo sent two of their most important men, including a man who the world would come to know only as Bigotes, the man with a mustache. Bigotes led the Spanish on a tour of the Pueblos, perhaps hoping to show Coronado that the Pueblos lacked the gold and the treasures that they sought.
Bigotes was a war chief, or at least a war captain, and in the company of one of his leaders, very likely a cacique. They made plans to go out to Zuni to look into the situations themselves. And Bigotes was able to bring them out to his country to show them the place first, but at the same time, the idea of the Spaniards was that maybe there was something that they were looking for further east from Zuni.
The Pueblos were not the cities of gold the Spanish sought, but the collapse of the myth of the 7 cities of Cibola only made the Spanish ripe for an even bigger lie, the legend of Quivira. Quivira was a land where rich lords drifted along a river in gold-draped barges and ate from golden plates. In their efforts to prove the existence of Quivira, Coronado threw Bigotes in chains and set the warhounds on him. The Pueblo peoples near Coronado's camp were also learning the true nature of the invaders. Constant Spanish demands for food, blankets, and clothing, coupled with the rape of a Pueblo woman, ignited a rebellion among the Tiwa.
After the Pueblo of Arenal had been set ablaze, the Pueblo people surrendered of their own accord. As Cardenas had been ordered by Coronado not to take them alive, but to make an example of them, so that the other natives would fear the Spaniards, he ordered 200 stakes prepared at once to burn them alive. Then, when the enemy saw that the Spaniards were binding them and beginning to roast them, about 100 men who were in the tent began to struggle and defend themselves. Our men, who were on foot, attacked the tent on all sides, so that there was great confusion around it. And then the horsemen chased those who escaped. As the country was level, not a man of them remained alive, unless it was some who remained hidden in the village and escaped at night to spread throughout the countryside the news that the strangers did not respect the peace they had made.
The Pueblos of the Tiwa were abandoned, like so many Pueblos would be in the future, their peoples pacified by death and destruction. Coronado pushed on to Kansas, only to find that Quivira was yet another lie. And without gold, Spanish interest quickly waned, and the expedition retreated, leaving the Pueblos in relative peace for yet another 50 years.
Coronado may be a knight or an explorer and a pioneer to Spanish people and to Euro-American peoples in general, but from a Pueblo perspective, he was a disaster. You know, his expedition might better be termed a destructive rampage through Pueblo country. Really, it was Coronado, by behavior, who was the savage.
So what does the conquered call her conqueror? What name does the victim give her victimizer? What is the proper name of the man who brings a bewildering storm of people, wagons, guns, strange ways, and a cold philosophy of fear into your beautiful, peaceful place? What right sound and true image conveys the psyche of the man who wreaks unspeakable sacrilege and does not know he does? The name of the conqueror is not discoverer. The name of the victimizer is not pacifist. The name of the conqueror is fear and death. The name of the victimizer is hunger and loss.
One morning in 1598, 400 soldiers, colonists, priests, Mexican Indian servants, and black slaves gathered on the banks of the Rio Grande, hundreds of miles to the south of Pueblo country.
On April 30th, 1598, day of Ascension of our Lord, at this Rio del Norte, Governor Don Juan de Oñate took possession of all the kingdoms and provinces of New Mexico in the name of King Felipe.
The Spaniards who came into the Southwest were imbued, as were all Europeans of the Age of Discovery, with the peculiar notion that they owned the whole heaven and the whole earth, and that any lands that were not already occupied by Europeans were theirs by right of discovery to do with as they wished.
When the Spanish arrived in New Mexico, they established their first capital in San Juan Pueblo. It was clear that this group of invaders was different from Coronado's expedition. They brought their families, mission supplies, wheat seed, fruit trees, and thousands of horses, cattle, sheep, pigs, and chickens. The Spanish were here to stay.
When the Spanish were coming from the south, I suppose that was where they were coming from, each pueblo where they stopped at, they were driven off. And then when they came to San Juan, they were on the other side of the river, and the people had heard about them being driven off from the other places, so they were going to do the same, and they had a meeting. But then the governor that they had there then was one who had compassion, and he talked to his people, and he said, why do we want to treat them in this manner? They have families, they have children to raise. They have to feed their families, and we can't be mean. We'll let them stay on and let them raise their family, let them raise a crop.
The reason we're called Pueblo Indians is because when the Spaniards came through our country, they found our Indian people living in towns and in villages. So Pueblo is a Spanish word which means town or village. They classified us, their only classification they knew, of course, was Pueblo Indians or town or village Indians.
One of the first things the Spanish taught the San Juan people was the dance of the Moors and Christians, a dance that celebrated the invincibility of Spanish arms and European religion. Although the dance has changed over 400 years, the Matachina is still being danced in San Juan on Christmas Day.
The Matachina dance is known to us as Matachina and represents Christianity, and the main dancer represents the king, and the little girl that dances with the men represents the Blessed Virgin Mary. And there are 10 dancers, and these dancers represent the 10 beads on a rosary. This is how we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ and his coming into the Pueblo, and basically reminds us that we not only have our traditional way of life, but the legacy or the tradition of being Catholic is passed on to the people.
In the Catholic Church,
Kai I guess the way the ekokastöra ett jäklat. I guess they passed. So emme so meek tai tiwe the missionaries I guess the kitiwe a missionary came. So tai chokoi. So if emme they wanted to Christianize the people here, the tribe here.
We have to look also at who were the people who came to settle. Although there were families, this place was not settled by Spaniards who were tied to being farmers, tied to the crafts or anything like that. They were basically people who wanted to colonize and use an available labor source here.
We send people out every month in various directions to bring maize from the pueblos. The feelings of the natives against supplying it cannot be exaggerated, for they weep and cry out as if they and all of their descendants were being killed. The Spaniards seized their blankets by force, leaving their poor Indian women stark naked, holding their babies to their breasts.
At Acoma, the demands of a small Spanish force, led by Oñate's nephew, Juan de Zaldivar, provoked a fierce battle. Pueblo warriors poured out of the houses and killed Zaldivar and 13 other Spanish soldiers. When he heard the news, Oñate moved quickly to crush this rebellion by ordering Zaldivar's own brother, Vicente, to lead the attack on Acoma.
Many of the Spanish soldiers who were there were either thrown off the mesa or were in some way hurt by the Acoma Indians. His brother came in with the idea of revenge, with the idea of getting back at these people who had killed his brother and had hurt so many and killed so many Spaniards.
Led by Vicente de Zaldivar, 70 Spanish soldiers arrived at the steep cliffs of Acoma and methodically prepared for a European war without quarter. Against cannons, muskets, crossbows, steel swords, and war horses, the Acoma people held out for 3 days.
Vicente de Zaldivar ordered the kivas and living quarters to be set on fire. Many were burned alive in those places, men and women, some with children in arms. Others were suffocated by the smoke.
Those who refused to surrender were dragged before Zaldivar and hacked to pieces, their limbs, heads, and bodies thrown over the cliff. The Spanish lost a single man, while 800 Acomas died. A line of 500 men, women, and children were led down from the Pueblo and brought to Santo Domingo to stand trial before Oñate for rebelling against the King of Spain.
The males who are over 25 years of age, I sentence to have 1 foot cut off and to 20 years of personal servitude. The males between the ages of 12 and 25, I sentence likewise to 20 years of personal servitude.
Shocked by the severity of the sentences, the Spanish settlers brought charges against Oñate and Zaldivar, who were found guilty, fined, and banished from New Mexico. Still, these European invaders continued their efforts to impose the feudal world of 17th century Spain on the Pueblo people. We were considered the property of an unseen king and his armored servants. We were forced to pray to a cross and European saints and follow the rules of an invisible pope and his all too visible missionaries.
The church and the state in the early colonial period had similar goals. I would say the political perspective was, of course, one to subjugate politically and to control within a feudal system, and the church's view was to Christianize and to convert and to save souls. And these two coincided as the encomienda system was formalized and implemented where they could use Indian labor, there were your missions, which were to missionize, right, to Christianize.
The encomienda and the repartimiento systems were the basic economic systems that were imposed on native people of New Mexico. And all of a sudden, there comes these invaders who begin to tell you, well, things are going to change here now. You can't leave your pueblo. You can't travel as far as you want anymore because we don't want you leaving your area.
They began to cut up the land, and for the Pueblo people, they were told how much of the land was now theirs. So you get the idea of owning other people for yourself. What an incredible, strange, foreign notion, when we talk about that other world.
The Spanish imposed a governmental system on the Pueblos, whereby governors ran the civil part of tribal life. In 1623, the Spanish gave each Pueblo governor a cane as a symbol of authority.
One of the most symbolic gestures that has elevated this whole notion of our status of sovereign entities over the last 400 years has been the issuance of canes by various sovereigns of the world. A traditional passing of authority annually among Pueblo officials is a passing of the canes, which symbolize the sovereign status of our governments.
Oh, emi ki kum cha ya zok ki cha ya zok ki.
Oh, emi hey again.
Where for that church cha ya zok.
I remember elders in my family talking about
Boys and 8 girls.
how when the mission at Acoma was being constructed, being built,
4
how
boys and 4 girls.
Pueblo people there had been basically placed into slavery and made to work until they dropped dead. And yet, ironically, now, 300-400 years later, we celebrate, with the feast days. We dance inside the mission. We revere Christianity.
Well, when the Spaniards first came up into northern New Mexico, one of the first things that they did was to build churches. And they utilized Indian labor to build those churches and later on to maintain those churches. And the labor was not voluntary. A parcel of land was set aside for the priest in which they would plant corn, cultivate corn, squash, and things of that sort to maintain the missionary household.
The church as a whole, because of its theological position, would look at the Indian religion as probably superstition and witchcraft. So from time to time, people were punished for that. And I think the church was concerned with creating a unified worldview. And it's not only converting people and saving souls, but also getting a perspective from the Indians that would support the medieval Catholic worldview of the Spaniard.
The missionary program involved the attempted destruction of all semblance of the indigenous religions, the filling in of kivas, the destruction and burning of Kachina Mass, the outlawing of the dances, the reporting of people who were involved in the practice of the traditional indigenous religion.
There were 3 missions that were built on Hopi during that period of time. The priests were so isolated that they pretty much made their own rules. They made claims on women reaching puberty. They were said to be the first to have these young women reaching the age of puberty before the girls were free to participate in the rest of the social marital institutions of Hopi. And that this apparently, according to the stories, was the last straw.
In their efforts to destroy our religion, the missionaries tried to separate sons from the knowledge of their fathers and daughters from the world of their mothers. Christianity would have destroyed our culture, our relationship to the Earth Mother herself. We did not consent to the eradication of our world. Gran Quivira at Tampiro Pueblo, abandoned in 1672, was one of the victims of the great contraction of the Pueblo world. It was a time when the world was out of balance. It was a time of death. The rain ceased to fall. The corn withered. Thousands of Pueblo people died in a great famine.
For 3 years, no crop has been harvested. Last year, 1668, a great many Indians perished of hunger, lying dead along the roads, in the ravines, and in their hovels.
That year, thousands died of starvation in Gran Quivira, Curay, and other pueblos. The elders and the children were the first to die, leaving a society bereft of its past and its future.
Giving food to the missionaries and giving food to the Spanish colonizers had a tremendous impact on the Pueblo economies. For example, at Taos, where the climate varies from season to season, and some seasons where you were able to reap a lot of corn and other years not being able to do that. Some years being lean in terms of hunting for venison and some years not. So it did have a tremendous impact on the economy. Many people were not eating as well as they used to.
The Apaches had mastered the horse, upsetting the balance between the Pueblo peoples and their nomadic neighbors. Their raids on the Pueblos came with increasing frequency. And then there was disease, a disease that struck both Indian and European. The Spanish attributed the deaths to witchcraft by Pueblo sorcerers. In 1675, the Spanish governor finally heeded the calls of the missionaries and arrested 47 alleged sorcerers and brought them to trial.
Naturally, the case was against them, and 4 men were condemned to die, and the others were to be whipped publicly. One of the men that was whipped was a man from San Juan Pueblo whose name was Poping, and the Spaniards called him Pope. He began to think about what should be done to retaliate.
Pope decided to go to Taos Pueblo, far away from the center of Spanish activity, and Taos needs to be given credit for giving protection to him and all the others that were planning the revolt.
The decision to fight, to go to war, probably took a lot of soul searching, a lot of input from various factions, various groups, various clans, various leaders within the Pueblo. And then to unite all the Pueblos, to unite each of these sovereign nations in a united effort to drive the Spaniards out of their lands. There must have been an awful lot of suffering that occurred that eventually drove them to that point.
It was a very ingenious plan. First of all, to communicate this plan to have the rebellion. It consisted of messengers running to all the various pueblos in New Mexico and into Arizona and informing them that this is going to happen, that they would create their own little rebellion within the village and kill the intruders.
The 3 spirits told Pope to make a cord of maguey fiber and tie some knots in it, which would signify the number of days that they must wait for the rebellion. The cord was taken from Pueblo to Pueblo by the swiftest youths under the penalty of death if they revealed the secret.
2 young men were appointed to carry the knotted rope, and each day as the sun came up, a knot would be untied. And on the last day that the knot was untied would be the day the action would begin. It didn't happen the way it was really planned. The 2 boys were discovered. They were brought to Santa Fe for trial. When the Tusuki people learned about it, they became extremely alarmed. Consequently, they killed a Spaniard that was at Tusuki. This was the beginning of the first successful revolt by a Native American organization against the Europeans.
On August 10th, 1680, the Pueblo warriors, by design, attacked the churches. August 10th happens to be St. Lorenzo's Day, and so the people knew that both Indian and non-Indians would be congregated in church. And it was in retaliation for what the church and civil authorities were doing to the Pueblo people.
Most of the villages, the churches were destroyed, and those people who were accepting of the Catholic faith were ousted from their villages, if not killed.
All of the Pueblos under the Spanish rule rose up against the yoke of Spain, and in some cases, as at Hopi, killed the priests, the Franciscan priests.
Within 3 days, over 400 Spaniards, men, women, and children, lay dead. 21 of New Mexico's 33 priests were killed. Churches, crosses, saints, and the symbols of Christianity were burned and destroyed. The Spanish governor and most of the colonists were trapped in Santa Fe, besieged by thousands of Pueblo warriors.
Indians from the pueblos of Pecos, San Cristobal, San Lázaro, San Marcos, Galisteo, and Cienega are 1 league from the Villa of Santa Fe, on the way to attack it and destroy the governor and all the Spaniards. They're saying that now God and Santa Maria were dead, and that their own God, whom they obey, never died.
They had a few days of standoff here. The Spanish guns, arquebus, against Pueblo bows and arrows, clubs and stones. Naturally, the Pueblos were at a disadvantage, but soon decided that the only way they could dislodge the Spaniards were to cut off the water. A few days later, the Spaniards had no water for themselves nor their animals.
Every day of the 9 days which the siege of Santa Fe lasted, more and more people assembled until the beasts and the cattle began to die because we had been entirely cut off from water. Being agreed that it was better to die fighting, his lordship advanced, and invoking the name of the Virgin, he routed and overran them and massacred more than 300 Indians. 47 Indians were taken prisoner in their houses. They were executed. But finding ourselves out of provisions with very few horses, threatened by the enemy and not being assured of water, it is necessary to leave. We have decided to withdraw.
The Pueblo peoples had a chance during the siege of Santa Fe to wipe out all of the Spaniards. And they stood to one side when their siege worked, and the Spaniards silently filed out, heading southward on their remaining horses and carrying what possessions they could carry, the Pueblo warriors made no effort to attack them. They just let them leave.
We are at quits with the Spaniards and the persons we have killed. Those of us whom they have killed do not matter, for the Spaniards are going, and now we shall live as we like.
The period after the revolt, it's recorded that the Pueblo people went down to the river, cleansed themselves. They did away with many of the things that the Spaniards brought. For example, they burned the orchards and tried to again be pure Pueblo people again.
It was a very joyous time for them. It was a time of relearning what had been lost in the past. And there was also a sense of threat as well that existed, because they knew that there would be other people to come in. They knew that they weren't completely safe from the Spaniards.
During the 12 years that the Pueblo world was free from European domination, the Spanish sent a number of armed expeditions to reclaim their kingdom. In the Pueblo of Alameda, the Spaniards found a man who, unable to flee, hung himself rather than be captured by the Spanish.
There would not be much of a Pueblo culture left over if the Pueblo people of 1680 had not taken the action they did. They acted to save their culture, to save their integrity of communities, and to save their self-respect, which the Spaniards were rapidly withering away with their onslaughts on their religion, on their labor, on their politics, on their very independence. And so it's in that sense, the sense that Pueblo culture survives late into the 20th century, that we must honor and commemorate the Pueblo Revolt of 1680.
There was no mention in the textbooks that I read of the Pueblo Revolt. There was never any mention of the kind of treatment of Pueblo people at the hands of Spaniards in the textbooks that I read. There was never anything said about our survival, our efforts to survive. And I think it's only now that our story be told.
Freedom gives life. Freedom is life. The Indian Pueblo Revolt of 1680 gave life. We exist today as Indian communities because of the revolt. Now our Pueblo people knew it was the time to be patient and determined to be enduring. Now we, the people, were to keep struggling for the existence of all things in creation.
The Pueblo Revolt brought 12 years of freedom for our people. But in 1692, Don Diego de Vargas visited the Pueblos with promises of peace, and our leaders agreed to let the Spanish return. Each year in Santa Fe, the so-called peaceful reconquest of New Mexico was celebrated, complete with Indians dressed in Hollywood costumes and looking happy to see their conquerors. Unfortunately, the real reconquest began when de Vargas returned with settlers, priests, and cannons.
The coming of de Vargas back into New Mexico has been depicted as one of being a bloodless conquest. But we know different, that de Vargas was just as brutal as Coronado and Oñate. However, we've managed to survive, and I think there's a lesson there for all peoples in terms of enduring atrocities imposed on people.
The first thing that de Vargas did after a long night of siege of the Villa Real de Santa Fe was to order some 80 Pueblo Indian warriors to be shot, summarily shot. And the remaining 400, mostly women and children, were ordered to be partitioned out to Spanish families to serve as servants.
2 years later, another revolt broke out, only to be put down by Governor de Vargas and his Pueblo allies. While individual Pueblos would continue to resist whenever their way of life was threatened, the Spanish had regained control, but they had also learned tolerance and respect for the Pueblo peoples. While the relationship to the Spanish improved, the world was still violently out of balance. Once living Pueblos were now abandoned to the wind. A Pueblo world that once held 50,000 people and 100 Pueblos was reduced to 14,000 people and 22 Pueblos.
The whole land is at war with the very numerous nation of the heathen Apache Indians, who kill all the Christian Indians they encounter. No road is safe. The Apaches hurl themselves at danger like a people who know not God, nor that there is a hell.
When the raids Apaches never so it's to find a way of protection.
By the 18th century, violent raids had become all too common by other nomadic tribes, the Navajos, Utes, and the fierce Comanche, who were not only mounted on the descendants of Spanish horses, but armed with French guns.
With the introduction of the horse, it just made it more difficult for the Pueblo Indians to secure their Pueblos from outside intervention.
It enabled the mounted raiders to appear and disappear very quickly. It made them highly efficient as raiders as well as warriors. The Spaniards and Pueblo peoples needed to pool every resource at their command to protect themselves effectively.
The need, just based on survival, for Pueblo people to not only defend themselves, but defend themselves very well. There grew among the northern Pueblos a class of warriors because of the many, many different kinds of engagements which they were called upon, either individually or through acting as a part of the Spanish militia. The Tewas especially, and also the Tiwas in northern New Mexico, became very well known for their fighting ability.
The alliance between the Pueblos and the Hispanos after 1692 was in a way an alliance of convenience, I would say, in terms of protection against the Plains Indians, or the Indians who were roaming the Llano Estacado and the plains. And this forced the villagers in both villages, the Indian as well as Hispanos, to come closer together.
The alliance of Pueblo Indians and Hispanic farmers and ranchers would last into the 20th century, but its roots went far beyond the need for defense.
I think the alliance between the Pueblo people and Spanish really was part of working with the land. When the Spanish came to the Southwest and found that there was no gold here or wealth, great riches to be had, they still had to survive, find a way to survive, and they really had to then cooperate or find out how the Pueblo people were doing it. The earth remains the symbol of the place where people connect.
What was happening right after the revolt was a search for common ground. That common ground was found first primarily through trying to establish an understanding of each other's ways. and also, finally, or secondly, through a process of coming to terms with living in this place, which is New Mexico, there was indeed a new kind of Spaniard, primarily an individual who was looking indeed to make New Mexico their home.
After the Spanish returned, they recognized Pueblo lands through a series of land grants. This legal recognition of our lands, the center places of our world, would be crucial to our existence in the centuries to come.
Under the Spanish flag, we were well protected under the laws of the Indies, which were Spanish policies. We were given land grants, which we still have today, cannot be touched by any government.
But reaching an accommodation with the church was far more difficult. The clergy and civil authorities still sought to replace our traditional beliefs with Christianity.
Again, there was a reassertion of Catholicism and the pressure to convert. A number of different pueblos attempted to convert outwardly and yet at the same time practice their own traditional native religious practices as they had always done. And that, of course, varied from pueblo to pueblo. Each pueblo evolved and developed their own kinds of strategies in relationship to the specific kinds of things that they were faced.
We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of
Even
God,
to this day, my grandmother
eternally begotten of the
will recite the Catholic prayers in Spanish. She'll say them in Spanish like before she goes to sleep. But yet, my grandmother will go to the kiva and she'll dance, and when she really wants to pray, she prays in Indian. She prays in Tiwa.
One of the things that we can be thankful for is a foresight of what our forefathers did to take our religion underground, so that what we know of today, what has been preserved, our language, our ritual, our ceremonialism, our songs, that they took all of that underground and developed a level of secrecy that still is very much a part of our way of life, so that much of what takes place as the most meaningful in our lives ceremonially is often close to the public, is often performed at nights.
While the Pueblo peoples and most Hispanic settlers depended on subsistence agriculture, there was money to be made in New Mexico through trade. Trade with the same Comanches, Apaches, and Navajos, whose attacks threatened the colony's survival. Every autumn, a great trade fair was held outside of Taos Pueblo. Human beings were one of the most important commodities at these trade fairs. In 1776, the going rate for an Indian girl between 12 and 20 years old was 2 horses and a blanket. Young men were substantially cheaper.
The Comanches would take captives, Pueblo men and women, and they used people as a sort of medium of trade with the Spanish for goods that they wished to obtain. And many times they would trade with Plains tribes for the captives that the Plains tribes held. Those captives were then inducted into the Spanish households, and this really is where the Hinacero and Mestizo population began to blossom in New Mexico during that century.
Historically, Genizaros have referred to detribalized Indians that were captured and ransomed by the Spaniards and brought into New Mexico and placed in mission communities, select mission communities throughout the state. Genizaros are Indians that settled into permanent communities, but they bridged two worlds, the Hispanic world and the Indian world.
Most Pueblos had achieved a stable relationship with the Spanish government, the Catholic Church, and their Hispanic and Jenisero neighbors. This stability ended in 1821 with Mexico's independence. While the Mexican period was short, it was marked with the loss of Pueblo lands.
The Mexican period, for all intents and purposes, was a very dire period of time for Pueblo people because of the change in the way that Pueblo people were viewed, and also with regard to the way in which Pueblo lands were handled. They were no longer looked upon as being special, and as they had been with regard to the case of the Spanish colonial laws and that period of time. They were viewed as being just the same as any other Mexican citizen. In some ways, the selling of land or the loss of land began to really occur extensively.
Dissatisfaction with the Mexican government was not restricted to the Pueblos, and in 1837, an alliance of Pueblo leaders, Jenizaros, and Hispanics flamed into armed rebellion in Santa Cruz and Chimayo. The revolt was crushed. Its Jenizaro leader, Jose Gonzalez, who for one brief moment had been New Mexico's only Indian governor, was executed. But the conflict between rich and poor would continue, and would become even more severe after the Americans invaded New Mexico in 1846.
Well, I'm very lucky to have a grandmother who listened to many of the stories of her grandparents and her great-grandparents. One time when I was a little girl, I went into her bedroom and I saw a saint, and it's always the saint that I thought was the ugliest because it was, well, you know, when you're a child, it was kind of burned out looking, and you can't really see the face and you can't see the eyes, but it's a figure of a saint. And I asked my grandma, I said, how come this saint looks so ugly? How come you keep it and you have all these other saints? And she told me that that was a saint that was thrown out of the church during the rebellion of 1847.
The rebellion of 1847 that took place here at Taos Pueblo was a result of our Taos Pueblo people here having very strong feelings regarding the imposition of a different way of life again here in this part of the country. Our Taos Pueblo leadership here took a very serious stand about the takeover by the United States government of this area.
The last armed struggle of the Pueblo peoples began in January 1847 under the leadership of Tomas Romero from Taos Pueblo. At dawn, a group of Pueblo men, Hispanics and Jenizaros, surrounded the house of the American governor. Instead of fleeing with his family, the governor stayed, only to be killed and scalped by the angry crowd. 5 more Americans in Taos died that day, and as the news spread, so did the rebellion to Arroyo Hondo, Mora, and other parts of New Mexico. Armed with artillery and modern guns, the U.S. Army set off from Santa Fe to answer this challenge to American authority. In battles at La Cañada and Embudo, a poorly armed group of Pueblo men and Hispanic farmers was easily defeated and forced to flee back to Taos and the fortified Pueblo which had protected them so many times from Comanche raids. The Americans were not intimidated by the thick adobe walls. They surrounded the Pueblo and deployed their artillery and began to reduce the village to rubble.
Many of the women and the children here took refuge Within the interior of the large Pueblo structures, tunnels were dug from one room to another in order to get to the deeper part of the village as the soldiers stormed the walls of the village.
On the second day, the defenders gave up and sent the women and children to the church, but any hopes of sanctuary were quickly dispelled by cannon fire.
And so when the soldiers came in, there was a lot of fighting that occurred. Fighting broke out, and somebody set the church on fire. They started throwing the saints out because they didn't want the saints to burn. And one of my aunts, or one of my other uncles, caught that saint, and that's how we have that saint.
Over 150 people died, and the Taos Revolt ended. The American conquest of New Mexico was complete.
The religious leaders were taken to Santa Fe under the pretense of negotiations and talks with the representatives of the United States government. Our people never saw these religious leaders again. These men were all hung by the neck until death in Santa Fe.
The American conquest of New Mexico did have one benefit: a respite from violent raids by nomadic tribes, which allowed the Pueblo population to increase once again after reaching its lowest level in history in 1850. 7,000 survivors in a world that once contained 50,000 people. Unfortunately, the practice of Indian slavery was accepted and continued by the Americans even after the Civil War and the freeing of the slaves. American progress finally made an impact on New Mexico. Mining towns popped up overnight, forests were cut down to build houses, and Jemez Pueblo lost its mountains. The transcontinental railroads linked the nation and cut Pueblos in half.
As I grow up, old enough to ride horses. I used to herd horses in towns right along the railroad. I used to see passenger couldn't come. I used to gallop over there with my horse. I used to go right alongside the railroad. And when people started waiting, and I had a long hair, and everything I wore was handmade. And I have always carried bow and arrow in my back to ride around the side of the railroad. I guess those people, so look at that little Indian, I guess they say.
The influx of people following upon the railroad, and even before, also served to reduce the land base that the Pueblo peoples have been accustomed to using. A lot of Pueblos, which had traditionally been left alone to graze their horses and cattle, their stock, on certain areas, lost those areas to the aggressive expansionist activities and policies of new ranchers.
Along the Rio Grande, the new Anglo-American immigrants pushed Hispanic farmers off their lands. U.S. courts did accept the old Spanish land grants to the Pueblos and to their Hispanic neighbors. All that was required was a simple survey and a review of the grant, a simple procedure that was used to defraud Pueblo people and Hispanics out of hundreds of thousands of acres.
The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo theoretically ended the Mexican-American War, and as provisions of the treaty, the rights of the Pueblo people were to be protected and respected, just as they had been under the government of Mexico.
The Pueblos were legal citizens, but there were some disadvantages because we were not recognized as American Indians under the 1834 Trade and Intercourse Act. This was an act which was proposed for other Indian tribes to protect them against land speculators and traders.
The court encouraged the non-Indians to settle into the within the exterior boundaries of the Indian pueblos. In our case up here, there were something like 3,000 non-Indians who squatted on Indian land, and they really refused to give up and to go out off the reservation even if they were asked.
The government not only stood by as our lands were taken, but actively joined in the theft. In 1906, President Roosevelt created the Carson National Forest. Its heart was the Taos Pueblo's sacred Blue Lake.
Our people belong to Mother Earth, just like the trees, the living things, the water, the mountains, everything is a part of Mother Earth. Blue Lake is a part of the land that our people have used and occupied for hundreds and hundreds of years. It is a link to our origin, a link to our past.
At the first snow one winter in 1893, a white man came and took all of us on a train to a new kind of village called Carlisle Indian School, and I stayed there 7 years. They told us that Indian ways were bad. They said we must get civilized. I remember that word. It means be like the white man. It was a warm summer evening when I got off the train at Taos Station. The first Indian I met, I asked him to run out to the Pueblo and tell my family I was home. The Indian couldn't speak English, and I had forgotten my Pueblo language. All this time, I was a white man. I wore white man's clothes and kept my hair cut. I was not very happy.
The federal government decided that maybe they did have some responsibility for educating Indians to become Americans. So they built these boarding schools, removed, for the most part from reservations, and brought children there, severed from their parents, and to get them away from their own cultural influences and make them into little Americans.
In those experiments, especially in the 1880s, when the Dawes Act said we will detribalize Indians, and I think Theodore Roosevelt put it well. He said the Dawes Act was like a mighty machine. It pulverized family and culture. The manifest destiny of the nation has moved up to and sometimes over or through Indian people.
Like the Spanish before them, the American conquerors decided that Pueblos could only progress if our religion was eradicated. A new wave of missionaries was unleashed, only this time they were Protestants. And rather than missions, they built schools to teach our children how to speak English and reject the ways of their mothers and fathers as pagan, bestial, and half animal.
When the Americans began to settle in with their own mission of civilizing Indians and making them good little Christians. So by 1860s, they decided to bring the missionaries who were apparently in competition with each other, different kinds of denominations, in competition with each other to get their own territory of Indians, to civilize and Christianize.
Oh, my father sang, he was singing all the time. And so he said one day there was these young women missionaries coming with a little box, he said, and it was a Victrola. blah, blah. And so my mother went to the door and that she said, I'm sorry, but we're Catholics. And so that my father said, oh, let them come in, let them come in. They have a music box. I like to hear music. Says, let them come in. And we're not going to be contaminated. If we didn't know any better, we might, we might, turn and so then she let them in, and so that they started playing the little music. And of course, he said, I liked it. He said, I sat listening to the music, and they were talking to us about God, and of course they don't understand that we know God more than they do.
At the beginning of the 20th century, our lands, our religion, and even our children were all under attack. The modern world, with all its wonders and problems, began to invade once isolated pueblos. The myth of the vanishing American Indian was created. It was only a matter of time, they said, before native cultures were swept away by the march of progress. The modern world had arrived at our doorsteps in trains, cars, and tourist buses, as anthropologists, photographers, and visitors flocked to see our quaint customs before they disappeared. But our people refused to vanish because they knew the beauty of the Pueblo way of life.
Generosity, unselfishness is one of the greatest values that our Indian people taught, and especially in my family, because my mother and father always say, never refuse a stranger, never refuse a person when they come to the house. Those are the things that we had before Columbus came, before education was put upon us, and those are the things that I call surviving Columbus.
Some of the best moments of my childhood were when I knew that feast day was coming. And all this activity would be going on, and I would, of course, have to be a part of helping to make the bread and sweeping the yard and sweeping the plaza, helping to plaster, bring the mud. But when the day finally came, I would get this wonderful sensation of walking through the crowds, hearing the sound, hearing the beat of the drum.
Whether we wanted it or not, the U.S. government decided that our culture, our heritage, would have to be destroyed before we could progress. More boarding schools were built so that all children would be forced to learn the white man's ways and forget those of their parents.
We went to school at Albuquerque Indian School or Santa Fe Indian School. Some went to Haskell and other places. Many of us were taken away from home during the time when our culture was at its strongest peak. Many of the elders were still living, and I feel that by being away from home, we lost out on many of the teachings that our elders would pass on to the people during the wintertime.
Yes, there were some negative things happening in the Indian schools because a lot of them were not allowed to talk the Indian language and punished very severely for speaking them if they were caught speaking the language.
I went to the day school here in San Juan, and then from 5th grade we get sent to the boarding school in Santa Fe. Then I entered Santa Fe boarding school. I didn't like that at all. Nighttime is when it was lonely. When you go to bed, you have nice clean sheets waiting for you, a nice bed. But there's no grandfather, there's no grandma. there to sit on their lap and listen to the stories.
Columbus goes back to Europe and claims that he found a new world. What right did Columbus have to make such a claim? Or what proofs did he have that it was a new world that he found? This world was not lost. Our principal needs today are that you eject all non-Indian trespassers off our lands. Instead of reimbursing the Indian for what land the non-Indian holds, why not reimburse the non-Indian trespasser and make him get off? He knows that he is holding land illegally. Only you know that he won't vote for you if you don't kick us into submission.
The U.S. government had taken more than 60 years to realize that we were Native Americans and entitled to the protection of our lands and water rights. It would, however, ignite a legal storm.
Another threat that was faced by the Pueblo people came in the 1920s in the form of the Bursum Bill. What it proposed to do basically was to legalize the rights of squatters on Pueblo lands. It would leave squatters, both Hispanic and Anglo, right where they were by legalizing their rights to the lands they were living on. If it had been uncontested and gone on through the Congress and been signed into law, it would have probably meant the end of Pueblo culture.
The failure of Protestant missionaries to eliminate native religions led to yet another assault on Pueblo life, the Religious Crimes Code. In direct violation of the Constitution, the U.S. government made our religion illegal.
Until the old customs and Indian practices are broken up among these people, we cannot hope for a great amount of progress. The secret dance is perhaps one of the greatest evils. What goes on I will not attempt to say, but I firmly believe that it is little less than a ribald system of debauchery.
Our most fundamental right is threatened and is actually being nullified. Our religion is sacred and is more important to us than anything else in our life. The religious beliefs and ceremonies and forms of prayer of each of our pueblos are as old as the world, and they are holy. We Pueblo Indians have not consented to abandon our religion.
The government was tempering with something very deep and sincere in the minds of the Pueblo people, because the religion, ceremonies, the dances are at the heart of who we are, you know, and if you start messing with that, people are going to take care of themselves and protect themselves. So very often what happens is, you know, the intent is one thing, but the result is just the opposite, because it just forces people to clam up even more, to guard themselves even further than ever before.
The leadership of the All-Indian Pueblo Council and widespread public support defeated these threats. And by the 1930s, the policy of the Bureau of Indian Affairs under John Collier had changed. For the first time, the BIA admitted that it was good and honorable to be an Acoma, a Zuni, a Hopi. But at the same time, the Bureau of Indian Affairs tried to impose its political system and federal rules and regulations on our way of life.
Out here at Laguna, there was a time that they recall when their sheep had to be driven into pits and slaughtered because of the drought that occurred, but in their own minds they were able to manage that drought by rotation of the sheep through various pasture lands. But somebody else came in and imposed certain quotas and limitations on grazing capacity that were external, but yet they had to live with them. So that was a great period, a great time of devastation.
My grandfather used to always talk about the survival of Indian people, and he would always say that there's no question that we as Indian people are going to survive, but the more important question that we should be asking ourselves is how. And that our answer to that how is the extent to which we continue to maintain the rights and powers of a sovereign entity.
Like other Native Americans, the Pueblo peoples defended the United States in its wars. At home, women and children pitched in to support the boys in the front and the war effort.
On Bataan, I was with the 31st Infantry Regiment. We were ambushed. Machine guns started firing all around us and we hit the ground. By the time I looked up, there were Japanese guards all around us with their rifles pointed at us. And then they walked us. We walked, the group I was with, for 3 days. We walked and walked and walked and walked. I came back. We could not vote. And then I asked myself, why did we go, why did they accept so many Indians, drafted, you might say, to be in the armed forces when they're still wards, when we are still wards of the government?
We had hoped that World War II would end all possibilities of other wars, but it didn't come out that way, and I thought that if any of our boys had to go to other wars, they should have the right to vote for the people who sent them out there.
We had to sue the state of New Mexico before we got the right to vote in 1948. But the changes set in motion by World War II would have an even more profound impact on the Pueblo world. The Pueblo people paid an additional price to defend the country.
It's gonna get dark soon.
Lands from San Ildefonso Pueblo were taken to create Los Alamos National Laboratory, the top secret research center which developed the atomic bomb. Uranium was discovered at Laguna Pueblo, and bulldozers, earth movers, and dynamite created a vast pit mine.
When the armed forces veterans came back, returned home, in the absence of farming, people began to work outside of the pueblos. Los Alamos was established as a wartime project, the Manhattan Project. So, at least for the northern pueblos, a large number of Pueblo people began to work at Los Alamos, both men and women.
Many had sold their livestock during the uranium boom because they, I guess, couldn't handle livestock and a full-time job. So now, often I hear, I wish I hadn't sold my livestock. I envy you because you still have livestock. But that was another thing that the old-timers used to tell us. Don't ever sell your livestock because it's food on your table and clothes on your back when the going gets tough.
In the 1950s, the U.S. government attempted to terminate its treaty responsibilities for all tribal people and turn administration over to the states. At the same time, the Bureau of Indian Affairs began a program to relocate Indians to urban centers across the country.
I have an uncle who was part of that relocation program who has lived in Oakland for over 40 years. Their feeling at the time was that they were going to do the best they could for their children. But one of the devastating outcomes of that is the offspring has rejected their parents and are very bitter towards their parents because they never gave them an opportunity to learn about Cochiti, never having an opportunity to learn the language.
I think that until the 1970s, not only Indian policy by the federal government, but in a way the reality of making a living or finding a way to stay in the Pueblo was very difficult. Policy said, go away. In 1950, it was, we take you away with the relocation and termination policies.
The U.S. government's efforts to destroy native cultures finally ended in the 1970s with the recognition that we were capable of determining our own destinies. The return of Taos's Blue Lake marked the first time the U.S. government actually gave land back to a native people rather than just providing compensation. This victory capped a 60-year-long struggle by a community determined to maintain its sacred relationship to the land.
It wasn't until the 1970s that Blue Lake was finally given back to the Taos Indians. It was a time of celebration. I remember seeing my grandmother crying and my grandfather crying in the house, and it was at night when we heard the story and heard the news, and they were crying, and they said we never have to worry about people desecrating our area. And I remember my older brother and I, David, we were flashing the lights off and on the porch light because we were so happy.
Blue Lake, a symbol of perseverance, because indeed this was a very strong symbol of a people enduring great hardships, great difficulties, and persevering in what they wanted done in a way of justice for our people, justice for Indian people.
While the sacred Blue Lake was returned, other sacred areas were taken. The Yakima people have come to worship in the starkly beautiful lava flow of the Malpai since our Pueblo was built over 1,000 years ago. Yet in 1987, these sacred places were made part of a national park and exposed to the influx of tourists.
Land is critical to the survival of the Pueblo people in this day and age because, as elders have put it, unless we can bequeath to the children a place on which they may plant their feet, as well as their crops, or whatever they want to plant, then the community will dissolve. Then they'll scatter like leaves in the autumn.
For centuries, our ancestors have successfully defended our culture, religion, and lands against the attacks of the Spanish, Mexican, and American governments. But today, we face perhaps our greatest challenge: how to maintain our existence as Pueblo people in a rapidly changing world replete with alcohol, drugs, AIDS, urban encroachment, and television. At the same time, the traditional roles of Pueblo women are changing as they too enter the workforce.
When I was growing up as a child, I remember that the role of a woman being in the home, being the nurturer, taking care of the family. But as time changes, I see women getting more involved in the working field, getting education, and because of socioeconomics, we have more single parents that need to get out and work. Now we have more women working in the Pueblo here.
The role of the women has changed drastically with times, with even the education that women have gotten, and the career that they want, and then to try to be a part of Indian life. It's a very difficult role to have.
It's extremely critical that
Indian women hold on to and maintain our lives that involves the traditional aspect of being Indian, because if we don't, then we're going to lose it completely, because the woman is the most important part of the home when it comes to the teaching of children. And if we're going to have our children continue this way of life, then it's up to us as mothers and teachers to instill all of that in our children.
Yeah, I tried to chew on this morning, but they're too good for me.
At the same time, traditional family roles are changing. Our culture is also being threatened by an even more severe problem: the loss of our native languages.
Language is being lost by the people, and when that happens, we have to worry and wonder about how long our traditional dances, our songs, and our prayers will continue to survive.
The qualities that help the Pueblo peoples to survive with their culture up till today is, first, religion, their native religion. And in order to have their native religion, they had to have a language. So these are the two outstanding qualities that help the Pueblos to survive: religion and language. You need one to operate the other.
It's very hard to be from a community where language is so important, where custom and tradition are so important, and not be a part of it, not to have grown up in it. To not know the language, though, is really difficult. I used to talk to my mother about this because I would ask her about language. I would ask her, what are they saying when they say those, when they pray? And she would try to explain it to me, and then she would say, I don't know the words. She said, she says, I know what they mean, but I can't explain it in English. And she said, I don't even think I could explain it in my own language, because those are words that are so special that they feel awkward in my mouth.
That's good. That's real good. Okay, now that you know that prayer, you have to go every morning and throw cornmeal. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think they can learn how to pray the right way in Indian, and I want them to, if they can.
It actually feels good because I feel that I'm learning it, and it just comes to you.
You have to say it too. You can't. We're Sandia Pueblo Indians, and if we don't grow up speaking it, it's our responsibility to learn.
Okay, 10 plus 1, how would you say 11? All of you. Again?
I think for a long time there's been this expressed fear by tribal elders that somehow we were losing something, that as they were pushing their children to get educated, they were at the same time sacrificing their own tradition, their language, their culture.
Ziti. What am I asking you? Ziti. Anybody? Ziti.
I know it would be very sad for me if they do lose the culture, but I still want for them to carry it on. And that's one of the reasons why I try to reinforce this in the classroom. If they can't get it at home, they surely can get it here at school.
If we just maintain to carry our language, carry our cultural practices, that we still can survive next 500 years, that we still can go beyond that to carry our identity. But it's entirely really up to us. Nobody has a power to come and destroy our culture and do away our language. And if we only carry this idea, not backing off, not giving up life, not shunning anything, we still can survive in time to come because we are unique people. all the way through history, and we still had to look forward to carry this.
And so we find ourselves on the eve of the Quincentennial, faced with some of the greatest challenges that Indian people have ever faced over the last 450 years, and that is how we survive into the 21st century.
It makes me very proud to have the heritage that I do have, because I feel that my people were opposed to Spanish colonization. Later on, U.S. intrusion makes me very proud that my people think that their culture and their traditions are so important. I don't consider myself a citizen of the United States. I don't consider myself a citizen of New Mexico. I am a Taos Indian, and that's what I am. That's my nationality, if you were to call it a nationality. And I'm very proud of my history of resistance. Very proud of that history of resistance.
My hope for Pueblo people is that we're gonna be here in 1,000 years, still very clear and very strong on who we are and why we are. It's mainly that the celebration of humanity will still be very much part of our prayers.
There is hope. It is in what past generations of our people have always said: as long as we keep believing in and living by the ways of our people, we will continue. As long as the story of our struggles, which is like the story of all people who deeply love and respect themselves and their culture, community, and land, is told, we, the people, will continue.
Even after 450 years, the encounter of the Pueblo peoples with white man's culture continues. What will be our children's future is unknown. Still, we have a genius of enduring, of surviving the descendants of Columbus.
In honor of all Pueblo people. That was very good. Sorry, I know it was long, but I didn't want to cut it off. I didn't want us to get all of the, genocide and none of the hope at the end. I feel like I learned a lot of history. About 500 years of it in that 2-hour tape. Yes, Pacific Arts or whatever. Thank you for your logo. One of the Nesmith Enterprises. Yeah, I've been very, very pleased with the quality of PBS documentaries, particularly from this era. Have we decided on a palate cleanser? Are we gonna check in with Dusty the Dragon? I figure we can do a Christmas tape. I figure we should be pretty lighthearted with it. We do have Hard Hat Harry's Real Life Santa Claus Adventures for Kids. Howdy. We just learned the story of the Pueblo people from 1992. The cinquacentennial of Columbus's discovery of the New World. Okay, yeah, Fun Christmas and Dusty. Oh my God. I really am amazed at how good all the Joshy D tapes have been. The boy knows how to pick them. Dusty the Dragon and Dr. Margie Hogan Talk About Tobacco was an amazing tape, and if you missed it, please enjoy this highlight from it. Courtesy of Seemingly Jess, who very graciously provided us with a palate cleanser after all that genocide. So let's see. What is it called? Smoke? Yes. Here we go.
Whoa, wrong! Tobacco in any form is addictive and can cause cancer. Dusty, you could lose your tongue or your teeth. Besides, who needs black spit, bad breath, rotten gums, and brown fangs, right?
Oh, I've heard enough. Enough! I can make my own decision. I've heard it said that smokers rule, be part of the gang right up after school. Now I know that just isn't true. Don't need a fire in my face to be cool. Not gonna spend my hard-earned cash on making stupid cigarette ash. Then there's my looks, my fangs, my face. My breath would smell like a fireplace. You think smoke's a social solution? You're just committing bodily pollution.
Wanna know the real situation? Your lungs may take a permanent vacation.
Your heart doesn't need all that extra work. If you smoke, I think you're a jerk.
Smoking's for the socially weak. Break out of that pack. Don't be a geek.
Yeah,
If
the
you
lungs are
hear
the
light
twins
up
from The
after
Shining,
school,
but they're
say,
Bobby
don't
Hill.
need a fire in my face to be cool. Yeah, all right. Hey, incredible. That's it. Yeah, no more smoking. Disgusting. Yeah, great. Incredible.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much. Tell you what, since everybody sat through that very informative segment that was 2 hours long, let's throw in a bonus. While I go get Hardhead Harry Santa Claus tape, please enjoy Goose Patrol.
With Mother Goose occupied incubating her eggs and watching the muskrat, Father Goose goes on the Goose Patrol. What's all this commotion? It's another gander near the island with a big dead tree. Chances are there's another nest on the island. There's the goose sitting on her nest right next to the trunk of the big dead tree. Goose nests are not difficult to locate once the gander is spotted. When a goose stands its ground and is noisy and threatening, look carefully. There's a good chance that there is a nest nearby.
Okay, well, thank you also to Green Day Rock. You're in for a repeat performance of a Peter Gabriel classic, originally a motion theater ride. It's Kiss That Frog. Are you ready to get yet another Peter Gabriel refrain stuck in your head? Let's do it. Also, this tape definitely does say 60 minutes. It was certainly not. Gotta fill out the warranty card for this videotape. And then we'll get Hardhead Harry in the VCR. Yes, they do shout out Crystal Pepsi. That's how 1993 this is.
Let me introduce this frog nest. You alone can get him singing. So puffed up, wanna be your king.
Oh man! So last night, Haley and I watched the 1979 Kate Bush BBC Christmas special. It's incredible, and it features Peter Gabriel in a couple of numbers. It has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas. But it really made me appreciate Kate Bush as an artist. Don't we all dream of having a giant toad with Peter Gabriel's eyeballs hovering over us in bed?
Don't have to be afraid. There's nothing here today. Our princess, you might like it if you lower your defense. Kiss that frog.
I'm so sad we don't get to experience this in an 18-seat mini motion theater. This is Rebound. Jump in the water, come on baby, get wet with me. That's pretty excellent.
A lot of ideas have been put forward as to why.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Green Day, for that feature presentation. Let's move right along to Santa Claus Adventures for Kids. I have no idea what to expect from this. We've seen a lot of Hard Hat Harry. But never Christmas Harry. The same guy directed The Lawnmower Man. Wow. I have not seen The Lawnmower Man. That's an impressive credit. Hard Hat Harry's real-life Santa Claus Adventures for Kids, featuring Hard Hat Harry and your favorite Christmas characters from the Hard Hat Harry universe or from the Christmas universe in a magical holiday adventure. Join Hard Hat Harry, the lovable genie, and his young friends Sarah and Zachary for a very special journey in search of Santa's workshop in the North Pole. Harry magically appears straight from an expedition in the Swiss Alps to take you on a thrilling, one-of-a-kind adventure. This is a hard hat adventure. This is a hard hat Harry adventure like you've never seen before. If Santa doesn't get his magic keys right away, children all over the world would go without presents on Christmas morning. You'll join Sarah and Zachary as Harry leads them on a fabulous search to find Santa and return the lost magic keys. Along the way, you'll meet Santa's helpers, Mrs. Claus, and Tannenbaum the talking Christmas tree. And you'll learn the wonderful elf expression, bless your jingle bells. Enjoy your favorite characters in Hard Hat Harry's truly remarkable holiday story. This high-quality color video delivers almost 30 minutes of all the sights and sounds kids ages 3 to 10 really crave. Well, let's do it. All right. I was going to subject you to Greystone Baptist Church, A Celebration of Christmas, Living Christmas Tree 2000, but I figured this would be a safer bet for fun, short, Christmassy. Whew. I don't remember the Santa's Magic Christmas keys from my childhood, but maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's like an Italian thing, like Befana the Christmas Witch. Maybe they have magic keys too.
It's Christmas Eve and I do believe we might see Santa soon. His 8 reindeer must have a landing gear. They've been flying all night by the light of the bright new Christmas moon. Oh, Santa Claus is jolly because he can fly all around the world, all in one night, and though his schedule is tight, he won't even miss one boy or girl. I know it's late, but I just can't wait to
Hard Hat Harry is
family.
Indecipherable.
And will he be
Every tape is different.
for me? Santa never gets lost, still my fingers are crossed that he finds my tree. Oh, Santa Claus is jolly because he can fly all around the world, all in one night, and though his schedule is tight, he won't even miss one boy or girl.
It is Christmas Eve day in the Thompson house, and the children are excited. Sarah and Zachary are getting ready to decorate the family's big holiday tree. Out of the attic, they've brought down the colorful tree lights, the delicate decorations, and the red and green tree stand.
I need coffee.
All of which have been carefully
I'll
packed
be in
away
chat.
since last Christmas. The scene is quite festive and quite normal until something very unusual happens.
Hey, Zach, look at this. Must be Daddy's keys. These aren't Dad's keys. These are old. Really old. What's this tag say, Sarah? No way. This can't be right. Listen to this, Zach. Urgent. If found, please return to Santa Claus, North Pole. North Pole? Sarah, maybe Santa dropped these keys under our tree when he brought us our presents last year. Why didn't Dad see when we packed up the tree stand and decorations? I can't believe this. It says urgent, Sarah. Maybe Santa needs these keys to deliver the Christmas presents or something. And that means he needs them now, Zach, on Christmas Eve. Oh, this is terrible. If we're gonna get these keys back to Santa tonight, we're gonna need a miracle. Or magic. And lots of it. Wait, Sarah, I know where we can get all the magic we need. Your Hard Hat Harry video? What are we gonna do with your Hard Hat Harry video? Not the video, silly. The real guy, the genie. We'll just call Hard Hat Harry. He can take us to the North Pole. He can help us find Santa. Come on, Zach. I don't know anything about getting a genie out of a box. So you better start thinking of something else quickly, or Wait, Sarah, we can do this. Really. All we up a rhyme kind of thing. I saw some kids do it on one of the videos. It moves Harry's molecular structure. Well, anyway, I'm not sure how it really works. But they did it, and Harry really came. Now help me. Okay, Harry. Close your eyes and make your body kind of mushy. Harry, how have you been? This is Zachary and Sarah standing in our den. Are you sure this is right? Be quiet. We need your help very much, please. Because my sister and I found these old keys. We've got to take them far away. So hurry, because they gotta go today. Harry, a whole lot of kids are depending on you. So come in a second, please. If you're really true.
You rang? I mean, you rhymed.
It's hard that Harry told you he'd come. Why are you not coming to the snow, Harry?
Oh, this. I was doing a little experiment in the Swiss Alps. I was trying to find out if every snowflake really is a different shape, and so far I've seen over 3.4 gazillion snowflakes, and no two are the same, but
That sounds very interesting, but we don't have time now. Something terrible has happened.
Did the tree fall on your house? Is anyone underneath here? Hello?
No, Harry, that's just our Christmas tree. We have a real emergency. We found these keys caught under our tree stand. We think they might belong to Santa Claus. Here, look at this tag.
Here, let me see those. Oh, no. Jumpin' genies. Oh, boy.
What, Harry?
I might be wrong, but I think you guys found Santa's magic keys.
Santa's magic keys?
Yeah, I've heard him talk about it before, but I've never actually seen them until now.
Wait a second. You know Santa? You've met him?
Oh, yeah, we go way back, 1,500 years back. We see each other each year at the gathering of magical beings. That Santa, he's a funny guy. He's always carrying around lollipops, hundreds of lollipops. You think they grow on trees or something.
This is great. If you know Santa, you must also know exactly where he lives.
Oh, well, not exactly. You see, Santa is what you would call a world-class magical being. He can be everywhere in the world at once or nowhere at all. Oh, guys like that, they're hard to find.
But we have to try, Harry. Santa's got to get those keys right away. They're magic.
Yeah, I see your point. If these really are Santa's magic keys, he'll need them in his journey across the world tonight.
Right, so why are we standing around? Let's go.
I guess the best place to start is Santa's workshop in the North Pole. Oh, but in order to get there really fast, we're gonna need some powerful genie magic. Are you guys up for it?
Absolutely, but hurry, Harry.
Okay, well, first, grab some snow and hold it in your hands.
Oh no.
Okay, now you have to stand real close.
Oh no,
while
my
I do this
busted
rhyme
ass
kinda thing.
home rolled Twitch
Here we go.
bot needs to be
Off the
manually
plane,
restarted
Santa.
because I still
Wait.
haven't made it handle the reconnect message. Stand by.
We're going to the North Pole. We better be dressed
Stand
for
by.
it.
What's the right SSH key for
forgot.
this? Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
Oh, I better change into something a little more practical too.
Just a little bit of this
Now,
here.
First, we have to imagine ourselves as light
Little
as
bit
little
of
snowflakes.
Restart the service.
Lighter. Lighter. Into the north wind blow Sarah, Zachary, and me off to find Santa to return his magic key. Now, as fast
Hey,
as
look, just like that.
we must fly over the treetops and into the sky.
Magic. The magic of computers. Rail meat is perpetually forbidden. Anyway, it's Harry time.
What happened to you, Harry?
Well, I think I got stuck in a blizzard, somewhere over Iceland, and it spun me around. Well, anyway, looks like we made it.
You don't think there are any wolves or polar bears or anything like that around here, do you, Harry?
Oh, don't worry, Sarah. You guys stick close to me, and you'll be safe.
Let's get out of here!
Quickly.
Ooh, good, we made it.
Ooh. Oops.
What's this thing? Ooh, freezing cold.
Well, if my compass is right, we are precisely in North Pole, New York. And that's the pole. Yep, Santa's workshop. Oh, come on, guys. We better hurry and find Santa before he leaves on his journey.
But where do we look? There doesn't seem to be anyone around.
Well, Christmas Eve, I bet all of his workers and elves are inside making toys.
Let's hurry. We have to find Santa.
Come on. Well, he's got to be around here somewhere. Oh, well, where could he be? Let's try over here.
Yeah.
Hurry, quickly. We don't have much time.
Look at this, a tree full of lollipops. Hey, they're growing on it.
Well, now I know where Santa gets all those lollipops. Hey, he can't be far off now.
Look over there. I think I see Santa's toy shop.
Well, maybe he's inside. Let's go.
I hope Santa's in his toy shop.
Well, let's go inside and check it out.
Yeah.
Well, open. Please walk in.
Wow. They're nice.
Hi there, Miss Elf. I'm Hard Hat Harry, and these are my friends Sarah and Zachary Thompson. We're looking for Santa Claus.
Not in here. Why are you so sad? You're one of Santa's elves. Isn't this supposed to be your happiest day?
Not this year. Santa's lost his magic keys, and if he doesn't find them by tonight, none of these toys will be delivered to the children.
But look! Ta-da! Sarah and Zachary found Santa's magic keys, and we've come to return them, but we have to find him.
Well, bless your jingle bells. You must hurry. You must run. Have you checked Santa's house? It's just over there.
We're on our way.
Thanks. We'll find Santa. Don't worry. Well, this must be Santa's house.
Well, I think so. The sign says, "Welcome to Santa's house."
It's so cute.
Well, let's go inside.
Wow! This must be Santa's kitchen. Gingerbread cookies.
Well, maybe we can have a cookie later, because now we must find Santa. Come on.
I'll bet this is Santa's chair.
It must be.
And this must be where he warms his feet.
You must be right. Hey, check this out.
Cool, look at this. Letters from kids all over the world. Dear St. Nicholas. Dear Kris Kringle. Dear Sinterklaas. Dear Gamala Ugo. Who are they writing to?
Well, Sarah, they're writing to Santa Claus. Only in different countries, Santa has different names.
I never thought of that.
Who's there? Is that you, Santa dear?
Are you Mrs. Santa Claus?
Why, yes, dear, I am. And who are you?
I'm Zachary Thompson, and this is my sister Sarah. And this is Hard Hat Harry.
How did you find us way up here at the North Pole? We're so very far from anywhere.
Harry's a genie, and he brought us here.
Hard Hat Harry, the genie, of course. I remember Santa mentioning you. You travel all around the world and visit children like Santa.
Well, I do what I can, but nobody reaches kids like good old Santa.
Good old Santa is a very sad Santa. He's lost his magic keys.
But we found Santa's magic keys in our house, and we came all the way from Massachusetts to return them.
Bless my jingle bells, children. My poor dear Santa's been looking all over for those keys. Where on earth did you find them?
Santa must have dropped them under our tree and he was putting out our presents last year. We found them stuck under our tree stand.
Oh, that man. Last week he left his cat in Dasher's stall. And the week before that, we found his glasses in the toy shop under a big pile of teddy bears. But I'm afraid we can't stand here chatting. If Santa doesn't get those keys right away, millions of children around the world are not going to get their presents tomorrow. We must hurry.
But where do we look? We've been to the toy shop, and now we're here and we can't find him.
Goodness, ask Tannenbaum. He may know where Santa is.
Tannenbaum? Who's Tannenbaum?
Tannenbaum is our talking Christmas tree. He sees everything. He's the tallest tree on the second hill. Maybe he can help you.
But that hill is far away, Mrs. Claus.
Hold on, kids. It's time for a little North Pole genie magic. To Tannenbaum, as fast as the winter winds.
Bye-bye. Too bad the children couldn't stay for hot cocoa.
Ah, this must be it. Oh, the tallest tree. Hello? Anyone home?
Certainly I'm home. My home is me, and I am Tannenbaum, and I am at home in me. Are you at home in you?
Well, yeah, sure, I guess.
So tell me, trio of travelers, how did you come to discover the North Pole? It is not an easy place to find. Only magical beings can find it. Are you magical?
Well, I'm Hard Hat Harry, a genie, and these children are Sarah and Zachary Thompson, finder of Santa's magic keys, and we've traveled very far to return them to Santa before Christmas Eve.
Ah, brilliant detective work, Sarah and Zachary Thompson. Without those keys, Santa's reindeer cannot fly, his sled cannot circle the world, and Rudolph's nose cannot light up to guide Santa's sleigh tonight. Unfortunately, it may already be too late. Santa has decided to make the trip without his magic keys. He's going to try and circle the world traveling on the ground, but I'm afraid that's quite hopeless. Flying has distinct advantages.
Oh, Tannenbaum, what are we going to do?
The last time I saw the jolly Saint Nick, my dear, he was not at all jolly, but he was moving swiftly in the direction of the reindeer shed. Are you familiar with the location of the shed?
No, this is our first time here.
I see. The reindeer shed is in the valley, to your right. You mustn't waste a moment. Once Santa and his reindeer have left the magical realm of the North Pole, it will be too late.
Okay, kids, stay close to me. More instant travel coming right up. Now, to the reindeer shed with the speed of a Siberian snowstorm. You must be one of Santa's helpers.
No, I'm Jonas, Santa's blacksmith.
I think I know why you're crying. Santa's magic key.
Oh, you've heard? It's unbearably sad. Without Santa's magic keys, his reindeer can't fly. There's gonna be so many little boys and girls without presents tonight. Those poor reindeer. They got so upset their antlers didn't grow in.
No antlers?
There just isn't any way Santa's gonna be able to make it to every little boy and girl in one night traveling on the ground.
But these will help.
Bless your jingle bells, the keys! The keys! Now Santa's reindeer can fly, the sled can circle the world, and Rudolph's nose can light. Woo! But wait! Santa's already left. He's too far away by now to be able to catch him before he crosses the magical border of the North Pole. Oh, this is just terrible.
Hello? Excusez-moi, remember me? I may not be Santa Claus, but I'm still Hard Hat Harry, construction genie, holder of magic gravel, world traveler, master magician. And I might still have a few tricks underneath my hard hat.
You're magical. Why didn't you say so?
Yes, Harry. Here's some special magic. We have to stop Santa before he passes the magical realm of the North Pole.
Well, before we can bring Santa back, we have to locate him. Don't hand me that picture of Santa, quick!
What kind of magic can you do with this?
Well, watch. First, we have to picture where Santa is, and then let him know how much we love him, how much we want to help him.
Oh, it looks like he hasn't made it to the border of the North Pole yet.
Here, quick, take this. Give me the keys. Here, Sarah, take those. Okay, now hold on to my hands. And we're gonna find Santa as quick as the quickest reindeer can fly.
Hurry, Harry, hurry.
Santa, there he is. Over here. Over here. Whoa, over here.
Whoa, Dasher. Whoa, Rudolph. Who's standing there? Hardhead Harry, is that you?
Yeah, it's me, Santa. And these are my friends, Sarah and Zachary Thompson. They found your magic keys.
What? The keys? You found my keys? But how?
You must have dropped them under our tree when you brought us our presents last year. They were caught under our tree stand. We found them just today when we were decorating our tree.
Tree stand? Your house? Children, tell me, where do you live?
10 Hastings Drive, Medway, Massachusetts.
Well, Dancing Elves, of course. Yours was the last house that I visited last year. I should have realized I might have dropped them there. Oh, children, thank you, thank you. But quick, we must hurry and get these keys returned to the reindeer shed. Jump in, jump in. Yes, they found my keys. The padlock on this box can only be opened by this key.
And no magic spell can open it. No magician or wizard of any kind. Only that key. And it can only be opened on one very special single night, Christmas Eve. Now watch.
And inside this box is a pouch. And inside the pouch, a magic flying powder.
Oh, wow.
Magic flying powder?
Yes, just a few sprinkles of this on the reindeer's hoofs, and off we go. Ho, ho, ho. Julasar, you know what to do with this. Hurry, lad. Hurry.
Will the magic flying powder make the reindeer's antlers grow back too?
Sarah, by the end of our journey tonight, each of Santa's team will have a marvelous new rack of antlers. But that doesn't matter, because now the reindeer can fly! And now his sled can fly all over the world, and Rudolph's bright nose will light up very bright so he can lead the sleigh tonight.
Ho, ho, ho! But Santa, there are 2 keys on the key ring. One key opens the magic box. What's the other key for?
That's very observant, Zachary. Have you ever wondered how Santa delivers presents to all the apartments and houses without chimneys so Santa can slide down?
And his other magic key opens the front door to any house, any dwelling, anywhere in the world, so Santa can deliver presents to boys and girls everywhere.
But Santa, how do you get to every house in the whole world so fast?
Oh, now that is a good question. Some of Santa's magic is so secret that even Santa has a hard time explaining it. But if we don't get started now, we'll never get our presents delivered tonight. Since both of you, with Harry's help, saved Christmas this year, I thought you all might like to
Deck
come
them
with
nor
me
halls.
tonight to deliver the presents to the boys and girls all over the world.
And you'll drop us off at 10 Hastings Street, Medway, Massachusetts?
Surely, surely.
Aw,
Ooh, do you mind if I tag along too?
No.
Oh. Let's go.
Hop in, everybody.
That should do it. Everything's aboard.
You know, the perennial Christmas favorites are like
Star, would you tell Mrs. Claus and all my helpers in the North
Mrs.
Pole
Claus?
that Sarah and Zachary Thompson,
you know, there's This It's a Wonderful Life, and the Charlie Brown Christmas Special, and the claymation Rudolph.
that the children across the world will receive their presents tonight?
In a different. Sorry, you know what my brain did.
Everyone.
In a different universe, we could be watching this on NBC every Christmas.
Santa, I could use one of these magic sleds myself. Ho, ho, ho.
Please have an effect shot of the reindeer pulling the sled into the sky, E.T. style. Please. We went through all that trouble for the goddamn flying powder. Show us a low-budget shot of the sled flying.
Oh, yes. At last count, we had 2,483,756 children. You see, Sarah, Mrs. Claus and I think of the world's children as a...
All right, I'll take it.
Especially tonight.
Did you ever burn your bottom going down the chimney if there's fire in the fireplace?
No, never, Zach. When we land on a roof, Rudolph blows his magic breath down the chimney. That puts any fire out just long enough for me to slide down, deliver the presents, and disappear.
Happy holidays to all!
And to all a good
Ho,
night.
ho, ho!
Merry Christmas!
It's Christmas Eve and I do believe we might see Santa soon. His 8 reindeer must have a landing gear. They've been flying all night.
Incredible.
Of the bright new Christmas moon. Oh, Santa.
I appreciated how low budget it was.
Because he can fly all around the world. All in one night, and though his schedule is tight, he won't even miss one.
Speaking of traditionalist Catholics, they put their Christmas tree up on Christmas Eve.
I know it's
because
late,
Advent is the time before Christmas is Advent, which is a time of reflection. You're not supposed to celebrate until it's actually Christmas, and then you have the 12 days of Christmas to the Epiphany.
Oh, Santa Claus is jolly because he can fly all around the world. All in one night, and though the schedule is tight, he won't even miss one boy or girl.
I just remember learning that in Catholic school. Anthony Paul, gay icon, as Hard Hat Harry, Shouting Girl, and Screaming Boy. William Bublitz. Candy, she's not related to Francis Ford Coppola, is she? Let her direct Godfather Part 4. They had 4 reindeer handlers and only 2 reindeer.
Hey kids, don't miss any of my real-life adventure videos. In my real-life lumberjack adventure, my friends Rachel and Dustin joined me on a trip to the forest to see actual lumberjacks at work.
Okay, we don't have this one.
We'll watch as the loggers cut down gigantic trees with...
We've definitely watched Hard Hat Harry promos. I don't remember the lumberjack promo, though.
Where they're cut into boards. You'll learn about the special equipment loggers use to get their job done from beginning to end. Then I'll show you how foresters replenish our forests by planting more trees. After that, we're off to see loggers at play in the forestry games where they saw, climb, and log roll. Like in the old days, just for fun. Why, they even let me try my skills on the lumber pole. So join us for a great outdoor adventure!
Hear that? That's the roar of a 3,000-pound monster that uses tires over 5 feet tall and a supercharged engine to go just about anywhere it wants. And you can go with it. Just join me and my friends Mark and Hillary in real-life monster trucks and get ready to climb on board the beast. You'll even meet a monster maker and see what it takes to turn a truck into a monster. From monster building to monster riding to monster truck racing. What we do, you can do too when you join us in our monster truck adventure. Do you ever wonder about all the different tools and equipment real mechanics use to work on cars? Or what it would be like to go
Yeah,
through
see,
a car
this is the kind of thing you expect from Hard Hat Harry.
Find out when you join me.
The Santa Claus tape is very bizarre.
In my real-life car mechanic adventure. From changing the oil to changing a tire, from repairing the engine to refueling the gas tank, together we'll explore how real mechanics keep our cars running smoothly and safely. Next, we'll see what a real car wash is like from the inside looking out. To be
I want Hard Hat Harry to be my surrogate dad and teach me how to change my own oil.
So join me in my car mechanic adventure. Ever want to learn how to build something really big? Then join me, Hard Hat Harry, along with my friends Eric and Kimberly, as we help build a house from the ground up. You'll be there with us as a giant tractor.
I don't know what tier I would put this in. It's honestly
house's cement foundation. We'll measure
kind of Hall of Fame material for me just because of how bizarre it is.
And insulate walls.
And how much bad acting there is.
Electricians wire a
Bad acting really elevates the tape into the
You'll even see me,
the Golden VCR Hall of Fame.
show painters how to paint, genie style. So join me and my friends in Hard Hat Harry's real-life house construction. And I'll even let you take a peek inside my magical traveling thermos bottle.
It's full of whiskey.
Motorcycles! They roar, they soar, they fly sky high! Come join me in my Hard Hat Harry motorcycle video.
What's strange to me about this is that it has no connection to the traditional Hard Hat Harry format.
We check out some really cool
And yet they still kind of pigeonhole it into that format. It's like, we're going to take you behind the scenes and show you how Santa really works. How does Santa, and they have to explain everything, like, oh, well, Santa has these magic keys and the magic powder, and this key lets him open all the doors, and he gets down the chimneys because Rudolph has magic frost breath that he breathes into all the chimneys so he doesn't get burned, and like,
join me in my new motorcycle
it's
video.
just odd for it to be like a science learning tape full of complete bullshit.
Armored vehicles and ride on some of the toughest go anywhere, do anything vehicles ever made? Well, now you can. When along with my friends Judy and Chad, we explore the biggest, neatest, coolest vehicles ever built in Hard Hat Harry's.
I wonder if Judy and Chad grew up to serve in Iraq.
Mount up and move out is the order of the day as we get up close, on top, and inside some of today's biggest, strongest, most exciting military.
This was after the Iraq War, and you know, it was 96, so it was after the Iraq War, but before the Iraq War.
To purifying water. So join us as we join the military and become part of the action as we explore real-life military vehicles.
The Iraq War was over, and there wasn't going to be an Iraq War for at least another
helicopter adventure.
9 years.
My friends Cindy and Taylor climb on board and we learn to fly a whirlybird. A real pilot shows us how to work the controls and operate the joystick. Then we are up and away. We discover some unique helicopters. Some helicopters carry people, some carry cargo, some drop off people, and some drop off trucks. We see helicopters that take off from ships and helicopters that can land on top of buildings or on top of snowy mountains.
Yeah, that's Hard Hat Harry's original reggae song about helicopters.
TV news helicopter films the day's headlines. It's a spectacular view from way up here. You'll feel like you're on top of the world. So come fly with me. It's one of my favorite ways to fly. We start off in the mountains in my real-life rescue video and end up over the ocean in a helicopter with the Coast Guard.
They made so many
On the
of
beach,
these.
we meet up with lifeguards as they rush to save swimmers.
I do remember, I don't know if y'all do, I remember seeing ads on TV, like on Nickelodeon, for these tapes all the time when I was a kid.
And when disasters happen,
But it wasn't until we started building VCR that I
amazing vehicles
experienced any of
always
them.
there to help out. And it's not only people who respond to disasters. In my real-life rescue video, we meet rescue dogs. It's the rescue dogs who are able to sniff out lost people, even in the snow. So come and join me in my real-life rescue video and meet some real heroes. And you don't want to miss my real-life farm equipment
Okay,
video.
I'm pretty sure we've seen
Remember
farm
Jennifer
equipment.
from our truck adventures? Well, this time
I think they're
she's
giving
back
us
with her brother Thomas.
all of
Being a
them.
little hungry, we all meet at a fruit stand.
Oh, we watched
that
this
hangs
actual
out on a
video.
farm. We explore all types of farm equipment. Tractors, combines, cultivators, and the unusual tree shaker, which they use to harvest nuts. Hey, we'll feed a dairy cow, see how hay is grown and baled, and visit a milking parlor. Then we'll head south to see cotton pick, and as a special treat, you'll see if a genie can juggle. Aw, nuts!
We had lots of fun on every one of these exciting adventures, and we learned lots of cool stuff. And there's lots more to come, so I can't wait to see you on my next adventure. Safely put into the tank. Well, why don't we go take a look?
To the combine!
Okie dokie, artichoke. A
All
combine
right, we're done
doesn't
with
need a tractor to pull
that
it.
was Hard Hat Harry's Santa Claus Christmas Adventure Real Life Santa for Kids. What a treat. What a Christmas treat. Will Leica is she's a mutt. She's like half Australian cattle dog and half a bunch of other things. Oh boy. The 6-pillar shuffle is a kick. Are y'all ready for the 6-pillar shuffle? All right, let's do it. This was courtesy of Wabella in honor of Haley 92, the latest winner of the British Columbia raffle.
Hey, I've got an idea. Let's do a dance. Everybody on your feet. Come on up. It's
Nope.
called the
Everybody on your feet.
6-pillar shuffle. We have pillars 1 through 6. We like to dance and do some tricks. Follow along and you will see how fun the 6-pillar shuffle can be. The 6-pillar shuffle goes like this. Twist is for trustworthiness. Roll is for respect. We're gonna reach up for responsibility. Then we blow a kiss for caring. Flap your arms for fairness.
I still remember this.
Stomp your feet for citizenship. The 6-pillar shuffle is a kick. We think
Siri,
you know
start a workout,
the way
6-pillar
it goes
shuffle.
because you're doing oh so fine. Now make it big. Yes, do it proud because it's 6-pillar shuffle time. The 6-pillar shuffle goes like this. Whoa, twist is for trustworthiness. Roll is for respect.
Respect.
We're gonna reach up for responsibility.
Responsibility.
Blow a kiss for caring.
Caring.
Flap your arms for fairness.
Fairness.
Stomp your feet for citizenship.
Ah,
The
yes,
6-pillar
citizenship.
shuffle is a kick. Now that you have got the groove, let's see how fast you can move. Maestro, please pick up the beat. Ready, set, now, shuffle your feet. The 6-pillar shuffle goes like this. Twist is for trustworthiness. Roll is for respect. We're gonna reach up for responsibility. Then we blow a kiss for caring. Flap your arms for fairness. Stomp your feet for citizenship. I said the 6-pillar shuffle is a kick. Do it again, even faster. The 6-pillar shuffle goes like this. Trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, caring, fairness, citizenship. The 6-pillar shuffle is a kick. All right, now one more time. The 6-pillar shuffle goes like this: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, caring, fairness, citizenship. The six-pillar shuffle is a kick. I said the six-pillar shuffle is a kick. I said the six-pillar shuffle is a kick. Yeah.
The work, it felt good to move my body. And it is a great reminder that I am tremendously out of shape. Maybe we should bring back live workout tapes. I never know when it's going to be a real fitness tape or Miss Connecticut. Beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that song. And I think that's going to do it for our tapes today. Thank you all for being here. I've learned quite a bit about Canada, about the Pueblo people, and about the true meaning of Christmas. Keys. Yeah, I'll see y'all back here. I don't actually know because I might take Wednesday off. So here's the thing. We got a lot of Christmas tapes. And yeah, no beavers in Canada apparently. We've got a lot of Christmas tapes, and I'm thinking that perhaps one day in December, I'll just do a stream where it's like long. I won't necessarily be on camera that much, but it'll be like a substitute teacher stream of just like a Christmas marathon. Tune in, tune out, be there, don't be there. Have it on in the background. You know, that sort of thing. So I might do that on Saturday and take a Wednesday off, but I don't actually know at this point. So keep your eyes peeled to the Discord. No. If you don't hear anything else, assume normal streams continue as usual. Cool. Well, I guess that's it. Hope you all have a lovely week, and I'll see you next time.